Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's policy session of the Phoenix City Council for May 22nd, 2018. We have two important agenda items on today's agenda, in particular our city budget that we'll be discussing and voting on later today. But we begin today's City Council policy agenda the way we begin all of our policy agendas. I'll now turn to members of the City Council to see if they have any information and or follow-up requests. Councilwoman Gallego.
Mayor, I want to take a moment and on behalf of all of us here today to recognize your service to the City of Phoenix. Thank you for your leadership over many years as mayor. We want to really recognize what you have done for the city. Really important changes leading us out of the Great Recession and trying to build a more diverse economy. Long-term investments that our children will feel, including in Transportation 2050, where we will be building that out for decades. So thank you for your leadership and long-term vision. Also very excited of what you have done on behalf of women in partnership with our city manager, Ed Zerker. When you came here, we had only one woman on the city council, our dean, Thelda Williams, and now we have more women than any other large city in the country. Only one of our large departments was led by a woman, and now 82% of city employees have a female manager, making us, again, a leader, a female department head, making us a leader in the country in that area. We also appreciate your work on behalf of equality for all people, including people with disabilities and the LGBT community with our non-discrimination ordinance. Generations of Phoenicians will appreciate your work on water issues, including long-term agreements with the Gila River Indian community, Avondale, and Tucson, as we enter a drought on the Colorado River that is increasingly important. Also appreciate your leadership in stabilizing our budget today. We'll make a very large commitment, I suspect, to pension stabilization. So thank you for your hard work on those issues and on sustainability, whether it be Phoenix Renews and activating vacant land or making us a leader on establishing ambitious goals on climate change. More recently, I've appreciated the opportunity to work with you on addressing sexual harassment among elected officials, should that happen here, and shining a light on dark money in our elections. Congratulations on being named as Governing Magazine's National Public Official of the Year. My understanding is that Councilman DeCiccio may be a little bit late because he's working on a last-minute draft of a citizen petition. I believe he's been checking with the city attorney to see if it was possible to do a petition to not let you leave. So I think we're going to see that introduced any moment. I don't know if the city attorney's had time to look into the legal advice.
We told him that the 13th Amendment prohibited that.
Oh, no. Well, Councilman DeCiccio will be deeply, deeply disappointed in that.
I was looking for him to stay longer.
He doesn't have the vote.
And we would never do gifts to a sitting elected official, but a gift that might be in your future. As we understand, you might be draining a swamp in D.C., so we got you some equipment to help you navigate that swamp, and wish you great luck in your future endeavors. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for those kind words and the very thoughtful swimming gear. That was very nice. Other members of the council, comments at this time? Councilwoman, please.
I just wanted to add that I appreciate being able to serve with you, Mayor. You've done a great job. I was just in Nashville visiting my parents, and I remembered why Phoenix is so great. And people may think it's the mayor, and partially it might be the mayor, but it's because we have dry heat and not humidity, let me tell you. But so I'm very happy to be back here. But I do want to echo the comments from Councilwoman Gallego. You have been really a pleasure to work with, and good luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you very much. Councilman Waring?
Thank you. So on May 30th, we are having a meeting with Thelda Williams in my district. Simply a coincidence. I think it'll be after 5 o'clock. So
good choice.
We're hoping, yes. Yeah, just darts at a dartboard, and here we go. So we're proud to have Thelda out. It will be at 6 p.m. at the Paradise Valley Community Center, which is north of Paradise Valley High School, north of Bell Road, on the west side of 40th Street. So we're happy to have the now vice mayor, possibly something else by that point in time, unless plans change. We'd love to have Thelda out to talk to constituents. And Mayor, I will just say, we've known each other a long time. I may not be able to support you professionally, but I wish you all success in your personal, hey, 50-50, right? So, but I wish you all success in any personal endeavors and so forth, and certainly appreciate all the courtesy you've shown me. I think most of it was you let me talk because you hope I'll say something awful and
Never.
get myself in trouble. But whatever your motives, I always appreciate it. You've always been very respectful, and I appreciate that. And wish you Godspeed.
Thank you very much. Thanks for those nice comments. Any other members of the council? Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to repeat everything they just said. I will say on my first thing on my list is a thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
It has been an interesting adventure we have had along this road, and I have known you for a long time, and know that your enthusiasm, your hard work will get you far, and we expect you to bring a lot back from Washington.
All right.
I also want to thank the K-9 unit and Chief Williams. Jerry Sims, Connie Wilhelm, and SSP each donated $5,000 to buy a new dog to replace Bane. And she was so gracious, and the home department invited the three of them over last week to headquarters, and they got to sit in her office at her table, and each got a K-9 shirt and a mug, and they were absolutely thrilled and donated another 10 grand before they left the office. So now they could shop for 2 more dogs. I was very excited. We had great fun at Condor grand opening. I laughed. Somebody said, well, Thelda Williams went to Germany and brought back a Condor. Not quite true, but I did meet with them while I was there, but it's very exciting to have a direct flight to Frankfurt. And I was even more thrilled to hear they had 100% capacity booking, coming and going. So they already can see the dollar signs, and we'll hopefully be adding extra days very soon and go way beyond. I had the privilege of being with Councilwoman Stark, Pastor, the Legos, and Councilman Valenzuela at the Employee Excellence Awards, where they were honored, and we have some outstanding employees, and I'll bet it was hard to pick which ones received the awards, but it was very impressive what their accomplishments were for this year, and very proud to work with them. And last but not least, District 1 monthly breakfast is this Friday, 7:30 a.m. at the Doubletree Center at Metro Center. And Michael Hamlett's going to be there to talk about the Heat Ready City proposal, as well as the census, and looking for people who want to get involved and volunteer with us. So thank you, Mayor, and good luck and Godspeed.
Thank you so very much. Other members of the council? Councilman Valenzuela?
Thanks, Mayor. You know, there was a few announcements that I had, frankly, that can wait. So I want to do the same thing. You just simply thank you. You know, when I first came to the city council, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn when you first get onto the council, specifically and especially. And you had, I believe, 9 years of experience on the council, and you were becoming a new mayor. And I worked with you on many things closely. However, I know you worked with any member of this council who wanted to work with you and to move our city forward. I made that very clear. I remember Dustin Gardner he's a reporter that covers the legislature now, I believe, but was our city hall reporter, and called me at the end of your first term. I just got I think he called several of us and just asked, what is it like working with Greg Stanton as a council member? And I named off so many initiatives. I remember the first 3 to 6 months on this council, the mayor asked all of the council members what 2 issues they cared about. You know, create a PowerPoint, present it as if your staff will put it to a vote. And that's pretty open, you know, and so I remember picking youth homelessness and things around the startup community. And, but several of us had these issues, and I brought that up in all of the different initiatives. You know, we are in a different place today than we were several years ago. Our economy is thriving. Our infrastructure has received more attention. It obviously needs to continue. And I can go on about all of those things, but there's no greater investment than the investment in people. And I think, in my mind, I think that's where you really thrived. You know, it is an open city. People feel welcome. The work is never done. We have a lot more work to do, obviously, but it's an open city. We passed that non-discrimination ordinance. Transparency is at a high, and we have to continue moving toward that. And you've been a friend. We've had opportunities to play basketball against and for and with one another for kids at GCU or the startup community. I will tell you, and I will say this in front of everyone here. He's not the Greg Stanton that played for Cortez. I'll tell you that.
Whew, whoa. Whew.
Not bad. Albert Santana will tell you he played with us. No, I'm joking. The mayor still has it. He still has. I think the jump shot's the last thing that goes. But anyway, I know. I think you've been a great mayor, and I know that you're going to continue to serve every one of the people of the city of Phoenix and the state and in the future, and that's good for all of us. So thanks and congratulations.
Thank you for those very kind words, and I do want to let everybody know, as a basketball player, Councilman Valenzuela is a good councilman. All right. It never ends. I will be leaving soon, and the mic will be yours, and I'll know way to respond in the very near future. Let's see. Is Councilman DeCiccio? Are you on the
Mayor?
Councilman Nowakowski, please.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just want to thank you, Mayor, for everything you've done, and especially for our relationship with Mexico. All those trips and it was a lot of healing with all the stuff that was happening here in the city of Phoenix and with our immigrant community. So I just really want to thank you for reaching out and bonding the two countries together. And also, Mayor, when you go up to Washington, make sure that you bring a lot of programs and money back to the city, right? And with that, I'd like to let everybody know that this Friday we have a very special event. It's called Star Spangled Celebration. And it's Friday at Cesar Chavez Park. Starts about 5 o'clock. And we have a fireworks show, and we have music, and we have booths and information booths out there and things for kids to do. And it's really celebrating the lives of the men and women that put on that uniform and that give the ultimate sacrifice, their lives for us. And it's a time for us to keep their memories and their legacy alive. We have family members that give testimonies also. So it's a special event that was created 5 years ago with the from my office and the living community. So if you have a chance, come on down. And if you have a chance to visit my website, it's www.phoenixheroes.org to get more information. Also, I just want to remind everyone that it's Memorial Day weekend, and what happens is we open up most of our public swimming pools. And it's really important that parents are aware of watching their kids around water, because right now people are curious and jumping into swimming pools, and we just got to make sure that children are being supervised and everybody knows the ABCs of swimming and making sure those gates are locked around small ones. And also, we're celebrating this week as National Public Works Week. And I just really want to thank all those fine men and women in public works that, drive the garbage trucks and does the maintenance work for us and just makes our city clean and looking good. And it's a great run city. And it's because of those men and women that really put their pride behind it. So really want to thank you all for everything you do. And once again, Mayor, thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much, Councilman Nowakowski. Thank you for those kind words. And make no mistake, when it comes to our relationship with Mexico, you were there first, and I was glad to be your partner on that very, very important issue. Councilman DeCiccio, do you have any comments?
Yeah, just a quick one, Mayor. I want to echo the same things that Councilman Nowakowski had just said regarding the Memorial Day holiday. I think this is a really good time for us to reflect on the men and women in blue and the military who have just given up their lives for us and who sacrificed so much for our families. I don't think anybody can realize what it'd be like to be a police officer, in particular in our city, where, I mean, we get the police reports on a daily basis, and we see what they have to go through and the pain that they have to go through. And to think about those children, their spouses that don't know if they're going to come back home. I think, if anything, we need to make sure we understand what they're going through on a daily basis and what they do for each of us. The military, in particular, a lot of people forget about their families as well, but those families don't forget. When they've got loved ones away in another nation, fighting for us, defending our freedoms, defending our rights, at the very least, we should always think about them during this Memorial Day, and that's what it's meant for. I think what Councilman Nowakowski has done in his district is amazing. It's just truly amazing, by the flags, by everything else he's done in order to show the respect that these individuals need. So this Memorial Day, I think it's important for us to remember those families, remember what they've sacrificed for us, and what they go through in a day-to-day situation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Pastor.
Well, I'm very busy these next 2 weeks. Some of you don't know, and some of you do know. Right now, I'm in the middle of a campaign for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and in this campaign, we're only given 9 weeks to raise money for LLS. And so I'm in the middle of all that. And I am just going to let you know several events. If you want to attend, I would be happy that you attend and donate to LLS. I have an event this Friday at BS West in Scottsdale. I'll be hosting the Element Show. I just found out today I'll be performing, and you're more than welcome to come see me. And then next Tuesday, May 29th, I'll be guest bartending at Dust Cutter at the Renaissance here at downtown Phoenix to draw the downtown crowd. And then on Sunday, June 31st, I will be hosting a botanical tea party inside the Addison Fine Jewelry store at the Phoenician. Please let me know. You can RSVP at my office. What's very interesting about the botanical tea party is that it's local. It's a local company working with Dr. Fashali in creating teas for cancer patients for hydration, for energy, and the tea, I love the tea. It tastes really good. So we're partnering up with them, and then I'm partnering up with Addison's Fine Jewelry. They create a piece of jewelry that's called Tree of Life, and it's for those of the Tree of Life that go through the journey of cancer, and it's just a reminder that we all are a Tree of Life. And then Wednesday, June 6th, I'll be selling donuts for donations in City Hall, courtesy of Lamar's Donuts. Please come out and show up for LLS. I think this is a great cause. I happen to have lost a constituent of mine, and she was young, she was 9, and I do this in honor of all of those that suffered through this. And then I'm going to have a community happy hour. I'll be hosting a community happy hour with our friends at Huss Brewery in the Uptown Plaza on Tuesday, June 19th. So come out and let's chat about things happening in District 4. And then this Sunday, May 27th, I'll be hosting a Memorial Day barbecue at the U.S. Vets Home on 3400 Grand Avenue. I'll be grilling hot dogs for more than 130 vets who found assistance through outreach, case management, housing services, individual and group counseling, and our workforce-related activities. And this is one way I'm going to give back to them. And finally, I have my trip to China, and I have a slideshow. And as we look at the slides, I will explain what is going on. As right here, this is the beginning in Chengdu. And this is the maternal love that sits outside of Chengdu's giant panda captive breeding base. Then Right here are all the pandas. The red panda ran underneath my feet, and I was like, what's happening? People were screaming, Laura! This is a wide and narrow alleys. It's a pedestrian shopping and cultural area converted from one of Chengdu's oldest neighborhoods. If you look at it, it's one of the historic areas, and you can see how modern it is. The bracelet that I have on at this moment was, at that time, they were making the bracelet for me. In there I have on the inscription, it's my name in Chinese and the date. Zhuzhangyang. This is the entrance of the irrigation system developed 2,200 years ago to combat flooding. The irrigation remains operational today. This is where Councilwoman Stark was calling me regarding the vice mayor, and I said, I can't, I have no phone. I cannot get on the phone. So it just shows all the different wonderful sites. A pagoda is right there, and then our firemen, and then Mike is one of our sister cities. He supports sister cities for over 20 years. As you continue, you can see the irrigation system. It's amazing. Fulong Temple is pictured in the lower left, and the houses of a statue of Li Bang, who was the chief engineer of Zhuzhangyang. As you can see right here, they're still old school, and they're getting ready for an event there, and they're gonna dam up the water. So I'm not really sure what was happening, but I just wanted to take pictures of how they dam the water. And in the corner, you can see 4 women helping with the manual labor. These are just some pictures around the area. That's Bob, who also traveled with us. And then you see Rita Marco and I taking a picture. That's the entrance of the Zhuzhangyang area. The surrounding gardens, incredible, beautiful landscape around that area, located 45 minutes from Chengdu. So you can see that taxi. And then I took a picture with the councilwoman that represents that area, and it was very interesting because there were women attending to the garden, and I wanted to take a picture with them. She was the only one that chose because she was afraid to take a picture, and so they had to translate and said, no, she just wants to take a picture. And so she was willing to come take it with me. The city of Chengdu is developing. As you see this, Jinsheng Greenway, it's a major development that will run nearly the length of the city and feature bike paths, lakes, open space, and gardens. The Greenway will connect 30 industrial parks in Chengdu. Photos taken in the Fubo Hill in Guilin. It's a province in China, and there's the teacup. Fubo Hill has a dazzling display and ancient rock carvings named during the Tang Dynasty. And so it has become a tourist attraction, and you can see the carvings right there. I took a picture of all the scooters, since that's a popular way to travel. I also took in the left corner, if you look at that, right in the left corner, I looked at that as possibly for when we put bike lanes, protective bike area, and to also be able to bring a shade in that area or be able to bring vegetation. As you see, we're taking a day hike up the mountain. You did need to be in shape to climb this mountain. It's the Miao and Yang people. So this is the rice area. Just more images of the terrace of the scenic area and the traditions, what they call ethnic minority. It's just continuing in that area. That's how narrow it is as we're climbing. Some of our delegation utilized the services of the local people to help them climb up the mountain. As you can see, Brian Foster decided he was going to help. The delegation took a boat ride from Guilin to Li River. The trip featured breathtaking views mountainous areas, as you can see, and I was just amazed that in this area that there was still tourist attractions. There's hotels in there. This is where we landed, and you see the fishermen, and you see the condors, and you see Brian once again holding it. The entire delegation took a Chinese cooking class, and they're all there. We're all there cooking. I happened to not cook that day because several people on the delegation were feeling sick, so I stayed with them. That night we had a spectacular light show was featured. The choreograph was developed by the same choreographer who designed the opening ceremonies in Beijing's Olympic Games in 2008. And then the final stop for the delegation was Hong Kong, and here we go to Hong Kong. As you can see, Julie was our tour guide, and there we go. The delegation visited the giant Buddha in Hong Kong, climbing 268 steps to reach the top. We also visited the Mo Temple on Hollywood Road in Hong Kong. You can see how beautiful that is. Of course, the giant Buddha, and those were the views. More images. And then Hong Kong is a spectacular city. As you can see, the evenings, you can see the density in Hong Kong, and it's just amazing. As you're looking at the pictures on the left, that was me standing in the largest building, highest building, tallest building, taking pictures, which is called Sky 100 Hong Kong, and those are pictures from there. Mo Temple, it is one of the Hong Kong's most visited temples and is thick for the smoke of incest. So those are the incest in the corner. And then the Jumbo Kingdom restaurant on the harbor, they had great dim sum, and that is right on the harbor, and it sits on the harbor. Then this is the delegation, all of us traveling together. You can see that we're very tired. But I wanted to give a brief slideshow to show celebrating the 30th anniversary of the delegation, but showing also our partnership with Chengdu and how we are able to interact. And then finally, Mayor, I just want to say thank you. You have changed our city into, I would say you provided access for many people. And you have helped diversify the local economy. You have showed steady leadership, have set some tough and ambitious goals for the city, ushered us into a smart city, or as we go to a smart city, paved the way for innovations and creativity. Under your direction, the city has changed for the better and is on track to become one of the leaders in the nations with the respect of sustainability, modernization, and efficiency. It wasn't always easy, and we don't always agree on every issue, but there is no question that the city is in a better place than when we found it. And I'm proud of the time working with you. I just want you to remember that those of us that were there with you on some tough decisions, to remember us. And wish you the best as you move forward in your different endeavors. And thank you for everything you've done. I am going to give you a gift. It follows the ethic rules. And just want to let you know that I follow this. I try to follow this at many times. At certain times, probably my ego gets in the way, and I have to remind myself to go back to this. But it's the 4 agreements. And the 4 agreements are: be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And so I will leave you this. It is by Don Miguel Ruiz. I have been through Valley Leadership with Servant Leadership. I have followed Franklin Covey, and I think this is probably the best that helps me at times when I need to go back and read why I do what I do. Always follow your passion, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much for those kind words and for the book and that Beautiful pictures from your trip to our wonderful sister city in Chengdu. Thanks for your leadership on sister cities. I very, very much appreciate it. I will just be very brief. Obviously, this is my last meeting as mayor of the city. And for me, this has been, I've been lucky enough to serve the city for a long period of time. Even before I was lucky enough to serve as mayor of this great city, serving with these great public servants up here on the dais that I'm lucky enough to serve with, I served on the city council. I started in the year 2000, and I was lucky to serve District 6 for 9 years. And then for a couple of years, I worked with Terry Goddard when he was Attorney General. I wish he became the governor, but that's another story. And then was fortunate to serve the last 6.5 years as mayor of this city. And I know I could speak for every single person up here on the dais. When you serve in public life, the hours are long, the nights are not yours, your weekends belong to the community, where you need to be out in the community. Each and every person up here could be making more money, doing other things. You get yelled at a lot by people that disagree with your position on issues. Your motives get questioned on every single vote that you take. When you explain why you voted for a particular policy, too many people often assume that, no, there must have been some other secret motive for what you do. I can tell you from my experience, for myself and these other people, that's actually not true. When we tell you a reason, that is the reason why we're voting. And I tell you what, if you were to make a list of the pros and cons, certainly by any rational measure, the cons would outweigh the pros if a normal person were making the list. But the people up here on this dais, we're not normal. We love it. I mean, there is nothing else I could imagine doing. For me, the decision to enter public service as a member of the city council and later as mayor was the best professional decision that I ever made. And I have loved every single minute of it. And I have loved serving with the people that are up here on this dais. And it has nothing to do with agreeing on a particular vote or disagreeing. Who cares? I mean, that's all, issue by issue. The people up here, I'm proud to serve with. They care about this city, and I really feel like the city's in really great shape, and it's going to continue to be in great shape because of the rock-solid leadership that this city is lucky enough to have. And we have made many, many decisions together. Many of you have talked about some of the very positive things that have happened during the time that I've served in mayor. But one decision that we made unanimously, that was maybe the best decision that we made, and that was to hire that guy, our city manager, Ed Zerker. He's done a great job for the people of the city. He's been someone for me that has been a rock-solid partner in the things we've tried to accomplish, and I know he's served all of us up here on this dais very, very well. So when we look back on this, at least when I look back on the decisions that we've made, hiring the right person for that job has been one of the best decisions that we could have ever made. So Ed, I just want to publicly thank you. Thank each and every person on this dais. We all are lucky to have incredible people that we get to serve with in our own staffs. I've got some of my incredible team here. Seth Scott, who I work with, my chief of staff, has done a spectacular job for me and for all of us, really keeping this ship floating in the right direction, both on policy and making sure it's good politics as well. And that's an important part of it, making sure the people of the city understand why we do what we do. Nicole Pastor is here. She's been with me almost from day one as mayor of the city and does an incredible job working with Councilman Valenzuela and others in terms of all the things we're doing in the warehouse district and Councilman Gallego's district on the innovation economy, et cetera. Incredibly talented person that I've been lucky enough, and I see Raquel in the back too, stepping on, who does a lot of the work we do. We're reaching out to the media, making sure the media is aware of the things that we're doing and why we are doing. And I could keep naming on and on, but we're all lucky. We're all lucky that we have such talented people willing to come work with us and for us here at City Hall. So I'm just such a, I mean, I'm going to miss this. I'm going to miss this more than you could imagine. I've loved every minute of it. And I promise you, I will.
Is that getting emotional right there?
I
Go
try to do
ahead,
it,
go
but-
for it. Let me watch it.
Council, or Vice Mayor, you did acknowledge that, if I'm lucky enough to be successful in what I'm pursuing, you better believe that I can't wait to work closely with you and the rest of the city leadership. The next mayor is sitting up on his dais, and as a result of that, because I know these people, I have full confidence that the city's going to be in great shape, and I can't wait to work with the leadership here at the city and obviously the other cities that I hope to be able to, lucky enough to represent. I can't go any further on that. I don't want to get in trouble with our city attorney with that, so I'll leave it alone at that point. I just want to say, as mayor of the city, to the people of the city, thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve. Move on. There we go.
I want to say one thing. I want to acknowledge his family who makes the sacrifices for you to serve. So
I just saw my wife Nicole and my son Trevor and daughter Violet just came to the meeting. So it's great to see you guys, and thank you for supporting me the entire way. I love you. Now let's get back to my comfort level. Business of the city. With your indulgence, I think I'll take item 2 first. I think we can dispose of that fairly easily before we get to the budget items.
Executive session?
You are correct, Vice Mayor, as always. Executive session call.
Mayor, in accordance with the properly posted notice and agenda, I move that the City Council, pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 38-431.02.a, meet in executive session on Tuesday, June 12, 2018, at 1 p.m. in the East Conference Room, 12th floor, City Hall, 200 West Washington Street, Phoenix, Arizona, and on Friday, June 15, 2018, at 9 a.m. at 300 West Jefferson Street, Phoenix, Arizona.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Item number 2 is the item concerning the Census 2020. There have been decisions from the President's administration to try to add certain questions as it relates to citizenship on the census. Many cities and states have decided to pursue litigation challenging that decision because it will result inevitably in an undercount for our communities of color, particularly our Latino community here locally. And if it goes through, it's my opinion, I'll let my staff give their expert opinion, it will result in a significant loss of federal dollars coming to our city because of that undercount, as well as a loss of important representation as Washington, particularly for a fast-growing and growing in diversity type state like Arizona and Phoenix. So Ms. Peters, our Deputy City Manager, with those opening comments, please your presentation on the Census 2020 potential lawsuit.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Very, very briefly, as we've talked about this a couple of times already, as you know, the United States Constitution requires a census every 10 years. And I would show you that if the clicker worked. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So the United States Constitution does require that a census be conducted each decennial, each 10 years. The actual language in the Constitution is up there for you to see. It requires an actual enumeration of the whole number of persons residing in the United States. Those numbers help determine the apportionment among the states of the members of the House of Representatives. Thank you. So as you said, Mayor, on March 26th, the U.S. Census Bureau announced that it would require information regarding citizenship on the census questionnaire this year. The Census Bureau has not had a question regarding citizenship in the decennial census since 1950. On April 3rd, the state of New York filed a multi-state and multi-city lawsuit challenging that decision. California also has filed suit. In the lawsuit that the New York Attorney General has brought, he's made a number of allegations. The citizenship question violates the constitutional duty of accuracy. No actual enumeration would occur. The question is arbitrary and capricious. It would undermine the Voting Rights Act. And since 1980, the Census Bureau has asserted numerous times that a citizenship question does reduce response rates. In addition, but the allegation is that the census question violates the Information Quality Act. Census questions must be designed to minimize the burden and elicit the highest response. The questions must be tested, and in this case, they have not been tested. And here's what's at stake for Phoenix. According to the Census Bureau, actually, the non-citizen population of our city is over 213,000 individuals. That's approximately 13% of our estimated population. For each person not counted, Phoenix loses approximately $350 per person and $155 per person in annual funding. Based on 213,000 folks, so you can do the math, that is over $107 million each year. And so we've identified a couple of options for the council's consideration, and with that, I or a member of our team can answer any questions.
I'm sorry. Is that the end of your presentation?
It is, indeed.
Mr. Santana, anything to add at this time?
No, Mayor, that it's just, we've been working with the council to identify the latest information to provide you all with options in regards to the citizenship question. So Ms. Peters covered the information that we had to present.
Excellent. And this is only my opinion, but I think you have undercounted the undercount. Because in addition, there may be many people that are citizens but will choose not to answer the question as it relates to, because of concerns that it might result in other challenges for them. So I'm guessing that if that question remains on, that will result in an undercount beyond even the numbers that you have indicated, which is bad for a lot of different reasons, not just the money, not just the political representation. It's just we have to know who's in our community, who's in our country, and so we got to do an accurate census. So the two recommendations, we did have a discussion in executive session, which of course we can't discuss here, but the options on the table would be to join one of the two cases. We would not be starting a new lawsuit. We would be joining an existing lawsuit, the New York lawsuit or the California lawsuit, or to participate in one of those lawsuits as a friend of the court brief. I guess they're not mutually exclusive. We could join one and do a friend of the court on the other if we so chose to go in that direction. Okay, so those are the options. Any questions by members of the council? Councilman Waring, please.
Thank you. And if I wade into executive session territory, I assume somebody will stop me. I'm not entirely sure where that border is, given that the options are sitting right up there. But so regarding those options, it's going to cost us some money. Sounds like regardless, it's alluded to up there. I guess my question would be, what do we theoretically get out of that? Assuming that you don't want the question to be on there, you've already got two other states suing. They're going to win or lose. If they win or lose, that applies to us, correct?
Mayor, Councilman Waring, the outcome of the lawsuit would apply to the entirety of the United States. You're correct.
So we could pay money to get nothing extra. That's not usually the way buying products works. You're usually getting extra channels on DirecTV or whatever. In this case, we get no extra benefit out of this. We just get a chance to spend some money, which I guess would cut the cost for New York or California. Is that how that works? I'm not in the lawsuit business, so.
I'd actually have to defer to the city attorney as to whether he thinks it would change the costs of the existing plaintiff.
Mr. City Attorney, obviously without giving us legal advice, but in general, do you have an estimate in light of the fact that it's ongoing litigation that we would just join as a potential additional plaintiff, what the range of cost might be for joining existing litigation versus friend of the court versus, it sounds like the position of Councilman Waring, having us be a free rider?
So, Mayor, members of the council, Councilman Waring, a great question. In the New York lawsuit, the Attorney General of New York is acting as lead counsel essentially for and on behalf of a variety of states and municipalities. we could handle that case easily in-house because essentially the Attorney General of New York will make the principal arguments and we'll be sort of me tooing or joining those arguments. And so that would be handled in-house.
Did you just say New York Attorney General and me too? Me tooing?
Well,
Move on.
you can tell I'm not very politically astute, or I would never have said that, for which I apologize. The acting new Attorney General of New York, we would just join in their pleadings. And so there wouldn't be any substantial cost to that because it could be handled in-house. With respect to an amicus brief, the long story short there is that oftentimes attorneys in the community enjoy the opportunity to file an amicus brief. We've had several amicus briefs filed in cases here, both in the United States Supreme Court and here in the Arizona Supreme Court recently, where the lawyers have done so pro bono because they want to be recognized both for their expertise and they want to represent us in the amicus situation. So we don't anticipate that an amicus brief would be a significant cost at all. We may be able to line up a very qualified attorney to do that pro bono. If not, there would be a relatively minimal cost to that. We would anticipate it would be less than $25,000. So those are basically the two price points for our participation.
Councilman Waring, follow up.
So in either case, the cost is going to be more than the zero it is right now. Where New York and California are apparently willing to do the work for us, we'll get the benefit of what some on this council would consider a positive decision. I'm not among them, but if that's the way you're leaning, if we spend money, that doesn't necessarily change the outcome at all. And I guess maybe we should have taken the budget item first because apparently we have lots of extra cash sitting around. Even if it's $1 or $5, why spend money we don't have to produce potentially the same outcome either way? I'm not sure how that makes sense. I'm not sure what I'd tell somebody if I knocked on their door and say, here's what we're doing your money today. We're not hiring more police or anything else. We're doing this. I guess it's a symbolic gesture for some people, but that's all it is. I think the value of that in this case is zero. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you want to go next? All right, Vice Mayor goes next, and then Councilman Gallego.
Mayor, the city of Phoenix serves everybody that lives here, whether they're a citizen or non-citizen. And there's a cost to that. People pay taxes, we get lots of grants, etc. But the census is extremely important to this city, and our future dollars depend on it coming from the federal government and from other sources. And so therefore, I make the motion that we join one of the two cases already filed. If we can do it in-house at minimum expense, that's even better. But I think it's important that Arizona appears, we're from the Southwest, we're a border state, that we think this is important for all of America and to get an accurate count. So that's my motion.
That's the motion. There is a second. Councilwoman Gallego? Or do you have any additional comments, Vice Mayor? Councilwoman.
Thank you. In Phoenix, all of our residents matter to us. Everyone counts and everyone should be counted. An accurate census is an important matter of public policy, and it's in the city of Phoenix's best interest that we have this accurate census. We have a unique population and unique demographics. We need to be at the table as this lawsuit moves forward to make sure that the people of Phoenix are accurately represented. So I'm very looking forward to supporting Vice Mayor Williams' motion. The census will determine our funding for essential public services, from public safety to transportation. We need to ensure that Phoenix taxpayers get their fair share of dollars from the federal government, and that's why we need to continue to be vigilant in pushing for an accurate census. The additional question was added to intimidate people into not participating in the census, and we need to show that the city of Phoenix supports all of our residents, that we have their back. This has been a longstanding tradition at the city of Phoenix to push for an accurate census. It's telling that two of our top executives, Karen Peters and Albert Santana, are leading this effort for us. We need an accurate census, and we need to make this statement here today. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Councilman Valenzuela is next, and I should have mentioned during the beginning of this segment that it was Councilman Valenzuela and Councilman Gallego together who asked that this item be on today's agenda. Councilman, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to thank Vice Mayor Felder Williams for making that motion. great tune. Sorry. So good. No, th- yeah, at the end of the day, it's doing the right thing. The Constitution says that everyone needs to be counted in this census, whether or not they are a citizen. That's our Constitution. And we stand to lose more than $700 million, but I've seen estimates of more than $800 million. So we don't want to spend a few bucks to put ourselves at the table. I mean, what do we tell the people of Phoenix if we lose and if we have to somehow move our community forward without everyone being represented? What then? This is the right thing to do. This is a no-brainer. In fact, it was the week of, it might be March 27th. That's the 27th to the 28th, because I put a statement out on the 28th of March stating my position on this. This is the right thing to do. I want to thank my colleague, Councilwoman Gallego, for the two of us working together and asking the mayor to place this on the agenda. I know the mayor would have done it anyway, but thank you for adding it to the agenda, Mayor, and I want to thank our vice mayor for making the motion and for leading the charge here. We have to be present. There are people in our community that need to feel valued. We've come a long way in the last 6.5 years. We have more work to do, but this is a major step in the wrong direction by just simply staying silent on this issue.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Councilman Nowakowski?
Mayor, it's about receiving our fair share from the federal government. It's about having this data that's so crucial for our future growth when it comes to economic development, when it comes from even planning a park or a school in our city. It's all that data that we gather that people use for the future of our city. So I think having $170 million that I agree with you, Mayor, that I believe that the undercounted are even undercounted, and that it's a lot more than $170 million a year that we're missing out. And if we end up losing that $170 million, as the chair of public safety, one of the things I hear out there is we need more police officers, we need more firefighters, we need more services out there to protect and to serve our community. And where are we going to get those resources from if we're counted? So once again, having this crucial data to attract businesses for economic development growth in our city is so crucial, and just for the future growth of our city, just to plan in the future where the numbers are and where the growth is. So thank you so much, Vice Mayor, for putting the motion out there, and thanks to Danny and Kate for advocating for this.
Thank you so very much.
Mayor?
Councilman DeCiccio, please.
Yeah, just listening to all this, it's still amazing to me the scare tactics that are being put out there, that it's going to drive people away, it's going to do all these bad things. The immigration debate is front row center, and especially for the city of Phoenix and those in the Southwest, but in particular in the nation. When we have the opportunity to get the actual facts down as to how many individuals we're dealing with in this country, how many individuals we're dealing with in the state and in the city, people choose not to get that information. That just tells me that nobody wants to know that information. We have a great opportunity in front of us to see what those numbers are, to see exactly what we're dealing with as a country, and whether or not we want to work forward an immigration plan. Whether you're on the right or left, it doesn't matter. But if you don't have the right facts in front of you, you can never make a right decision. And it's just shocking to me. I guess I should not be shocked when I hear these constant threats, these constant scare tactics, these constant complaining when it's an opportunity to get the information in front of us. I will definitely not be supporting this motion.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilman DeCiccio. Councilwoman Stark, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be supporting the motion. I agree with the Census Bureau. I think when you ask these types of questions, you're going to reduce response rates. So I'm not sure we would get accurate data. But we do need that data because as we grow, we want to make sure we're represented and we're represented correctly. And the census information is vital. And it sounds to me like it's not going to be that expensive for us to be a part of a lawsuit. So I think we should do it. We don't want to lose money, but we also want to have great representation at a national level.
Thank you so very much. Councilwoman?
So I'm actually very excited to hear this conversation, in particular that we welcome all citizens and non-citizens in our city. And we will be having a conversation on our budget. And there is a community that has asked for funding to be part of our budget. So I'm glad to hear that my colleagues are supporting this, in particular opening up the doors to everybody within the city. There could be a debate about that. I, at this moment, agree with Councilman DeCiccio because there is an immigration issue and we do need to solve our immigration issue. It doesn't necessarily happen here, it happens at the federal government. However, we are having a dialogue at this moment about our budget, and the community members that sit here at this moment are asking for some dollars out of the budget, and they are a part of our community. So I'm actually excited that we're having this dialogue at this moment because we will then move to the budget regarding this. Because at the end of the day, the reason why we want this item off the census packet is because it comes down to dollars. Every person we count, every person that's sitting in this room, you mean $1 to the city. You mean money to the city. And every person that sits in this room, it also means what it means if we get a new senator, if we need to get a new congressman, congresswoman. It's all about the redistricting of our districts and who we get. As more of the population grows, the more numbers we have, that's what happens. That's the game of the census. And I'm supportive of it, but what I'm telling you, that's what's happening at this moment. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. I will be supporting the motion. If this question is ultimately included in the Census 2020, it will result in an undercount nationwide, but it will result disproportionately in undercount in communities like ours that are blessed to have a high Latino population. So if this question remains on the census, our community will be hit harder than other parts of the United States of America. And it's not just dollars per se, it's what those dollars go for. We're talking about dollars like community development block grants, so that great nonprofits that go out in the community and help build our neighborhoods, make our neighborhoods strong, receive their fair share. These are dollars for things like LIHEAP, low-income energy assistance, so that when it gets extremely hot here during the summer, deadly hot, people can get resources that they deserve that potentially are life-saving. We're talking about affordable housing dollars so that working class families in our community have the support that they need so they can get a roof over their head and all the benefits that go along with affordable housing. We're talking about dollars to help people break the cycle of homelessness that is in part driven by population figures as a result of the census. So every single person up on the dais that wants to make sure we get our fair share, it's not just dollars per se, it's what those dollars do to build community. That's why we want to make sure that we get an accurate count and don't have a undercount, and in particular, a disproportionate impact here in Phoenix and the state of Arizona. So I'll address the issue that Councilman Waring raised. We could be a free rider if we wanted to. That could be a choice that this council could make, but I think that would be the wrong choice. I think we have to speak loud and clear that this is a priority for this community, and we're going to make it a priority by going as far as to joining one of the challenges to this decision. And when we are successful, the rest of the state of Arizona can be a free rider on what we have done, because it's not just Phoenix that will benefit from it when the correct legal result occurs. It will be communities all over the state of Arizona. And for that reason, I'll be supporting the motion. With that, roll call.
Councilman DeCiccio.
No.
Councilwoman Gallego.
Yes.
Councilman Nowakowski.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Yes.
Councilwoman Stark.
Yes.
Councilman Valenzuela.
Yes.
Councilman Waring. Vice Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, by a vote of 7-2, the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Peters. Thank you, Mr. Santana. We'll now move on to the other agenda item that we have today. That item is the city budget. As everyone knows, city manager many months ago proposed a city budget. It then went through 15 or more budget hearings throughout the city of Phoenix. 2 weeks ago, the city manager presented his alternative budget as a result of those budget hearings, knowing that the community then had 2 additional weeks to make comments on that proposed budget. Today is the day that we, the city council, get to vote on the proposed city budget. So with that, Mr. City Manager, I'll hand it over to you and our Budget and Research Director, Mr. Barton, and then I'll turn it over to the council to see if there is a motion, and then we have about 10 to 15 cards here, people wishing to speak. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor, thank you very much for that summary of the budget process to date. I want to first say thank you personally, and also on behalf of city employees, thank you for your service as mayor. It's been a great 6 years. Thank you. Just before I get into it, I want to mention something. Just as I was walking in here, I got a text from our Chief Financial Officer, Denise Olson, who is in New York City today with our Water Services Director. And I think this story is indicative of the financial strength of the city right now. They were there to sell wastewater bonds, not the sexiest thing in the world, right? Sewer bonds. And the Chief Financial Officer got excited, as Chief Financial Officers do, because the interest rates we got were 2.66%. 2.26% for our refinanced money and 3.66% for the new money. And those were both about 50 basis points below what their estimates were. So that's an indication of strength. There was about $700 million of offers for about $200 million of bonds. Again, that's an indication of the financial desirability of the city of Phoenix bond offerings. But also then to mention, one of the things, remember, that this is from is the action this council took to do a creative work with our pension. And so part of this is helping us refinance some of our pension liability in a creative way. And that actually got a credit positive remark from Standard & Poor's. So overall, that in itself sort of indicates the foundation that you as a council have led us to here. As the mayor mentioned, we're here for the first of 3 council votes that are required by our charter on the 2018-2019 budget, which is balanced and which makes significant investments in infrastructure, public safety, homelessness prevention, neighborhood livability, arts, and libraries. As the mayor mentioned, we came to you on May the 8th with an updated proposal. And since May the 8th, there has been one addition, which Jeff will explain in just a minute, as it relates to our homelessness category. As you recall, about a year ago, we were predicting that we could be, with no action, in a deficit situation. You directed us to take action. Our city employees have done that under your direction. And so what we present to you today is a budget that's based on strong revenue, a diversified economy, smart pension management, and cost controls, and that's put us where we are. It preserves our existing services, its investment in technology, vehicle replacements, and our building maintenance. It represents the final year of our labor contract, where we have restored employee compensation to where it was before concessions were taken about 10 years ago. It includes the creation of a public safety pension stabilization fund that will help us manage into the future with our public safety liability. And it also decreases the property tax rate by 2 cents. The property tax levy goes up, the tax rate goes down. That is another indicator of financial strength. The property values rise, the tax burden is shifted across a greater value, and the tax rate can decline. Also important to this council has been continued hiring in police and fire. This budget continues to support that direction of the mayor and city council, where we have a roadmap to 3,125 sworn police officers. We're currently at about 2,950. The chief and her staff are working hard to continuously find recruits. We are on scheduled to hire 300 new officers in 2018-19 to get us to 3125 and deal with our attrition. That's very important to the community. And on the fire side, we have a similar roadmap to our authorized count of 1,668, which in this budget actually is an increase from that by about 15 positions. In non-general funds, this budget reflects important programs to the council, particularly responding to community growth in our Planning and Development Services Department, and in adding to our street and engineering team to support pavement restoration, sidewalk building, ADA, mobility improvements, the things that have come with Transportation 2050, and also creating an Office of Pedestrian Safety to begin smartly evaluating, engineering, enforcing, and educating about how we can reduce the number of pedestrian deaths we're experiencing in the city. So for the final bit here, I'll turn it over to our Budget and Research Director, Jeff Barton. I want to thank him. I want to thank his staff who's sitting here with us today. They put a lot of time and energy into the budget. I want to thank you all for hosting our community meetings and participating as well. And now Jeff will walk us through the general fund portion of the budget.
Mayor, members of council, good afternoon. And as Ed mentioned, I'm going to walk you through the general fund additions to the budget that we've been talking about since the May 22nd trial budget. And we'll start with public safety. As the city manager mentioned, this budget, in addition to the hiring that he emphasized, this budget also shows a continued significant importance on public safety. And it includes the following additions: civilian inspectors to the fire department to enhance the fire inspections service, as well as to improve and rewrite the fire code. It also includes matching funds for the 2016 SAFER grant that included 32 firefighter positions. Additionally, as we discussed on May 8th, this budget also includes the conversion of the temporary Station 55 from a 12-hour operation to a 24-hour operation. That's in anticipation of the future permanent site being opened later next fiscal year in the I-17 and Joe Max corridor. And it also includes a couple of civilian positions in the police department, specifically positions that the chief and her staff need to assist them with investigations involving firearms, as well as civilian support staff in the public records area to enhance their ability to deal with the increase in public records demands. This budget also includes additions for neighborhoods, specifically based on your direction, your leadership, as well as state regulations that have recently changed, sober living. So this budget allows us and provides the resources and staff needed to implement the city's sober living licensing program. Trees and shade. We heard a lot about trees and shade from our youth at the budget hearings, as well as parents and those pedestrians and also those bike riders that like to get out in the city and ride about. This budget includes funding needed to replace about 750 trees on an annual basis, as well as the resources needed to keep those trees alive. That makes the city a more livable city, which was one of the paramount features of the Tree and Shade Master Plan. Also, for arts and culture, we heard a lot about arts and culture, and we do every single year what the arts mean to our community. This budget includes $30,000 worth of additional funding for arts grants. It also increases our arts maintenance money in the general fund to about $100,000 a year. And it also includes a position to oversee the development of the Latino Cultural Center. Library hours, as you know, with the closure of Burton Bar, we added 4 additional Sunday hours at 4 branches. This budget proposes that those 4 hours remain in perpetuity long after the Burton Bar Library opens next month. And finally, census. Well, census, as you just heard, census is very important to us, so this budget includes 1 position as well as the resources needed to ensure that all Phoenix residents are counted. I won't go into the detail because you just had a full presentation about what census means to the city. And finally, homelessness. We heard a lot about homelessness at every budget hearing. It was the most talked about item that we had at the budget hearings. And it's a very complex discussion. Many facets exist to the homelessness issue. And so this budget, our approach is to take a layered approach, and it includes the following items. It includes additional support of the outreach and navigator teams, as well as the administrative oversight of the Phoenix Cares program. It also includes 2 additional teams in neighborhood services and to help with the public works and streets, sorry about that, to help with the cleanup of neighborhoods, alleys, and washes. And it also includes the additional request that was brought forward by this council, by 3 of you in particular, and that is adding $75,000 worth of support for case management to CAS.
That's going to allow additional case management to connect folks to services and to ensure that those individuals are placed with services and reduce our homeless population over time. And we're able to do this with no additional funding because we're taking some of the funding that was allocated to the Navigator and outreach teams and repurposing those funds. It's staff's intent to find additional replacement funds through grant funds to replace that $75,000. And with that being said, just a final look at our budget. This is the same for the general fund. Again, $1.3 billion. We are balanced. Our resources match our expenditures. And again, those increases from this year's budget to next year were increases that we planned on. Everything from the 1.3% in compensation to the increases in vehicles and technology that the city manager talked about earlier. So the next step in our process after today's vote is the legal adoption process. We'll be back in June, twice, June 6th and June 20th, for the legal adoption process. Also, on June 20th, we have our truth and taxation notice that's required for the primary property tax. And then on June 5th, we actually have our property tax levy vote. So we're here today seeking your approval of the 2018-19 balanced general fund budget. And with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barton and Mr. Zerker. By the way, that was outstanding news that you provided earlier regarding the review of the credit agencies that our budget director is and finance folks are meeting with in New York City right now. That's a sign of strong fiscal management, balancing our budget year after year, having the discipline, the fiscal discipline to put the appropriate amount of resources into contingency funding every year. And I know that's one of the recommendations is that we bring it up to a record level of contingency fund support for our budget. I know the fiscal decisions that are made in our general fund are somewhat different than water, wastewater, et cetera, but it's all a sign of strong fiscal management of the city. So congratulations, Mr. City Manager, on that very positive news that you provided. I'll now turn it over to the City Council. I don't know if there is a motion to be made on the proposed budget, see if there is a second, and then I'll turn it over to the community for comments.
Mayor?
Vice Mayor.
First, I want to thank you very much for coming up with the extra money for CAS. I think that they have demonstrated their success. You have people there that are ready to accept services, and their case workers have worked very diligently to get them into other programs and out of the homeless system. And I think it benefits us by the fact that since they're always on an overflow status, the more successful they are, the more room they'll have to take in some of the people that we are trying to guide towards their facility. So I think it really benefits us in many ways in the long term. And I thank you for holding all the meetings, having the patience to work with all the community. I would move approval of the budget you have submitted today.
Second.
There's a motion. There is a second. Unless there are any objections, I'll turn it now to members of the public that wanted to provide comment, and then comments, and then I'll turn it to the council members for comments before we take a vote. Our first member of the public would like to provide testimony for the council, Kate Titaya, followed by Vidi Hernandez.
Hi, good afternoon, Council. Good afternoon, Ed. I am here to talk about what I see as like a really sad example of how the budget process has operated in Phoenix this year. I come here as a member of a community that listened to our elected officials who told us that you wanted the public to participate in the budget process. And so we turned out over a third of public comments to protect ourselves, to ask you to please provide funds to protect us from something that we see every day in our lives, on our streets, which is police violence and the violence that we experience at the hands of the deportation machine that Arizona, I have to say, is the leader of in the country. It's no surprise to me that Jim Waring and Sal DeCiccio, by the way, my council person, I live in District 6, and you know, I walk to the store with all the other like rich white people in District 6, and I see the over-policing that exists even in that community, even in my community. So it's no surprise to me that those are the two council people that don't see, for example, the expenditure on the legal case. at the Supreme Court level to defend what you call is like the beautiful population of Latinos in Phoenix. There's a large, since the last time we were here at this budget meeting, 3 council members supposedly stood up and challenged what was on that piece of paper, saying, actually, we want to increase funds for CAS, and actually we want to move some funds around for trees and for parks, which is beautiful. So my question to you all is why? Like, why is there silence when community comes to you and says, okay, we've done everything that you've asked us for, and we laid out 2 very clear demands, we brought a majority of people, and what we get is silence from a lot of you. So I want to know why there was not a 4th person since the meeting that we came to last time that stood up and said, you know what, we're going to hear the community that has come out with now over 700 people who have put their names down on a piece of paper saying that we need you to distribute a very, very small amount of money in the grand scheme of things for a public defense fund and for a health fund to help us this community that is victimized by police violence every day on the west side and on the south side of Phoenix. So I want to leave the rest of my time to actually ask the council members, like, why did not which one of you was the one that could have stood up and said, actually, I've heard this group come out now for the 3rd time. Why wasn't it not you who did something for us?
Mayor, I can answer it.
Councilor Cicio,
what's up,
please.
Sal?
Well, I can easily answer this. It's because no one believes this BS anti-police rhetoric that you and your group are pushing. If you look at it, you're going to get a lot of lip service, but no action. The reason you're not getting any action on that is because people are sick and tired of this anti-police, anti-American type of rhetoric that's coming from your group. Not only is it anti-police, but it puts them in harm's way. Every single day, these individuals go out there protecting us, they protect our families, and all they need is people like yourself and others that come out and attack them and attack them and attack them. I'm sorry. I don't believe in that. I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong for our country. I think it's wrong for our city. And we should be respecting the individuals that go out there on a daily basis protecting our families.
I'm glad you talk about people's safety, sir. And yeah, you're right. People put their lives in harm's way. I can tell you about many people who have lost their lives to people who are gun happy on Phoenix streets. And sir, I mean, at the end of the day, like it doesn't totally matter to me what you personally think about what America should be, because I'm one of the people who elected you, and the people in my immediate neighborhood are some of the people who elected you. And so I'm pretty sure that as the member of this council who was brought here by my vote, that you have a responsibility to listen to and respect a little bit of what I'm bringing you as a member of this community.
All right, thank you very much. Councilor, you have a chance to respond, and then we'll move on to we have a lot of other speakers.
You're just not seeing that, and you're not going to see it from this council, and you're not going to see it from the city of Phoenix, because no one up here believes that nonsense that you're preaching.
You know, it's not nonsense, sir. It really isn't.
All right, thank you very much. We have Ms. Vidi Hernandez is next. Obviously, we want to give everybody a chance who's here to provide testimony for the city council. All right, we appreciate the comment. All right, so Ms. Hernandez is next, followed by Mr. Craig Tripkin.
All right. Well, I am here to ask the same question. Over 500 people have made the comments, have made the demands for these 2 things on the budget, and yet they're being completely ignored. How many people made the other demands that did make it up there, right? Over 150 participated in the budget hearings. You all received an email earlier with over 500 petitions that have, 400 petitions that have been signed, adding to those demands. So you don't get to sit here and be hypocrites and say that every voice matters, that we need to sue and get everyone's voice counted and do this thing with the census, and yet you're in your own process going to go ahead and ignore all the people who participated in it. So it doesn't work both ways. So either people's voice matters and people's voice should be counted, or it shouldn't. And you don't get to say that it should and then go ahead and ignore it 5 minutes after you made that vote, and then say, oh, well, not your voice right now. So that's my question. It's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to count? Are you going to count our voices? Are you going to say that this is something that is agree with the community because the community has been participating. You asked for democracy and people showed up, and people have been participating in this process. We deserve trees, we definitely do in our districts in Westside and just South Phoenix and everywhere we live. But I'm sure if we go out and do a poll, we'd rather have safety and wellness than trees. And it's sad that we have to debate this and have to choose, but I can say that strongly that's people would prefer that. We've been collecting surveys for the last few months. Our goal is to collect 12,000 surveys in West Phoenix, knocking on doors, talking to people. And it isn't, Saldesio will tell you that this is all BS, as he said, but it isn't when you talk to people and people are scared. And so there are 3 things that you can do. And the stories of 12,000 people and even more thousands of people that you're not gonna be able to ignore, Mr. Saldesio. And we're not saying we're anti-police. We're saying that there needs to be safety for everyone, and right now we're not feeling safe. So things that you can do right now is add these demands to the budget. Other cities have done it. You have examples how to move forward. Create a transparent process that includes community and that allows and truly is representative of democracy. And then finally, hold your police accountable so that for this culture of violence that has even made these demands an issue to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Craig Tripkin is next, followed by Judy Giles.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and City Manager. I want to start by complimenting you. 3 years ago, I think we were looking at a $31 million deficit. Maybe it was a year ago that was projected. And this council and the manager have done a great job in getting out of that box and actually being able to find a little money to do some more work. Mayor, we'll miss you, and thank you very much for your service. I guess as much as I want to thank you for more money for CAS, it's important. You've all heard my speech too many times. You've seen I forgot my poster today, but you've seen my speech. But I do want to just suggest one thing to you, that in the future, we've talked a lot about regionalism, and that has been there's always an undercurrent of this discussion. And I would ask you to help us and ask us, and I will offer you our help in trying to get this discussion on a broader level and trying to get more money in from other cities, and also the physical siting of facilities. This isn't just about money. Yes, we want them to send money to CAS, but it's also about the physical siting of these facilities. Everybody needs to carry their fair share of the physical burden and the financial burden of this. And again, help us help you, and please help us to try to make that case and establish that homelessness is everybody's responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tripkin. Great to see you as always. Judy Giles.
I was a member of the Arts and Culture Commission for 6 years, and I am now on the board of Friends of Phoenix Public Art, and I want to thank you. I support what the city manager has put in the budget for the arts, and we appreciate it immensely. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your advocacy and your leadership on the Arts Commission for so many years. Paris Wallace, followed by Yasmin Sakastume. I'm sure I mispronounced. I apologize.
Hi, Council. I'm actually going to take a second and speak directly to my district representative, Laura Pastor. Hi. Well, so as I've mentioned many times, I live in your district, and you said a lot of really great things last time we were here. A lot of really, really wonderful things. However, what exactly are you going to do, right? So are you going to stand up and say that we deserve what we've been asking? I mean, we have a survey that's been circulating, and so many people have given their time to fill it out from all over, not just in our district, right? So what I'm asking directly is, what will you, are you gonna ignore our voices, or are you going to listen to us? Because you guys just made a decision to actually consider our voices, right? So I was just sitting there thinking, well, we were being told that we are anti-police and anti-American and all of these things, right? And it's not true, but what we're looking at is, are we really safe, right? As a Black woman, am I really safe, right? Because I don't feel safe. So living in District 4 and actually being a participant in the democracy that you all invited us to, don't forget you invited us, right? So when we show up and we get ignored and we don't get considered, it doesn't feel inviting. It doesn't feel like you're on our side. That solidarity, right? That solidarity that District 2 didn't want to extend, because the whole point of us joining that lawsuit would be solidarity, just to show that we are actually with the rest of the country. Because when you're out there by yourself, dying in the streets, you don't feel that solidarity. So what, are you gonna back us? I'll leave the rest of my
Find
time.
out. I don't have a decision at this moment.
All right, thank you, Ms. Wallace, very much for your testimony. Yasmin, followed by, is it Pilar Amazaga?
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, this is I'm kind of small. Thank you. Well, I have the petition in my hands right now, and what we're gonna do is read off the names of everyone that has been supporting us and that is supporting us. Like it was said before, we turned out a third of the total public comments, and I'm just mentioning that we're gonna keep reading off. Viridiana Hernandez, Juan Morales, Maximiliano Gutierrez, Luke Black, Estela Moller, Jessica Rodriguez, Timothy Schmaltz, Ezelia Arros, Manuel Saldana, Ashley Hare, Anjali Moore, Jessica Rubio, Emily Spertino, Sarah Dr. Lagarza, Maria Sanchez, Berta Hernandez, Juana Rita, Jennifer Hernandez, Molly Thomas, Maria Lara, Diana Solache, Alondra Sanchez, Joy Saldana, Alana Vejaba, Juan Vargas, Roberto Juarez, Jose Andrade, Leonardo Urias, Brenda Salazar, Jennifer Ibarra, Jesus Rivera, Ricardo Rodriguez, Ricardo Para, these names are a little hard, Cristian Vega, Alondra Castaneda, Miriam Reyes, Fran Alvarez, Maria Sanchez, Francisca Duran, Alei Pons, Karen Quintanero, Carlos Nevares, Marisol Luna, Richard Rodriguez, Catherine Herrera, Ricardo Ortega, Omar Reyes, Jasmine Feliz,
All right, thank you
Marisol.
very much. So you can read maybe a couple more, but
Yeah.
everybody gets 2 minutes, and I think maybe you're going to
I'm
hand
just
off
going to
someone
add
else.
2 more names.
Okay, please.
Marisol Lizarraga, Cassandra Tinoco.
Thank you so very much. The next speaker is Pilar Amazaga, followed by Alexandra Rodriguez.
Can I read? Okay, sorry. Jessica Lechuga, Ruby Hernandez, Victor Aranda, Karina Cruz, Xavier Hernandez, Jared Balderas, Florelia, I don't know how to say that, Valencia, Jenny Medina, Rodolfo Quijada, Rosario Barraza, Isaac Limon, Nikisha Crocker, Vanessa Valenzuela, Irvin Herrera, Ana Lucia G., Lisbeth Macias, Daphne Cervantes, Genevieve Grunig, Victoria Negrete, Nikira Moodley, Edward Valdez, Lorena Nevares, Alma Perez, Alex Rodriguez, Alexa Banuelos, Jesus Quiros, Isis Roman, Isabel Garcia, Danielle Miranda, Sheila Williams, Luis Garcia, Griselda Resendiz, Jesse Cabrera, Michael Trejo, Angelica Carrasco, Evelyn Valladares, Kevin Cabrera, Denise Sotelo, Victoria Garza, Edgar Vasquez, Astrid Garcia, Luis Franco, Jocelyn Falcon, Wendy Espinosa, Alejandra Lopez, Quincy Robert, Mazaran Gita, Edith C., Jairon Escalante, Aurela Medina, Alejandra Rosas, Crystal Alvarado, Kevin Kronk, Sally Rodriguez, Daniel Alcala, Luis Garcia, Sweetie Reyes, Heidi Vega, Hector Villarreal, Maria Luna, Adeline Lopez, Sabrina A., Allison Gomez, Jasmine Mesa.
How many more do you have?
I can stop there.
Okay, I appreciate it, because I don't know if the next person can also read names as well. Alexandra Rodriguez. Followed by Yasmin Nora.
All right. Before I discuss, or before I read off some names off of the petition, I wanted to speak out about what it, word by word, what it exactly says to the people who have not seen it or filled it out or have even heard of it. So we need the City of Phoenix Council and the city manager to add a trauma compensation fund for our communities impacted by police violence and a legal defense fund for families being separated by the collaboration of Phoenix PD with ICE to the budget. And you may ask why this is important if this doesn't pertain to you or if you don't know anybody this really pertains to. So every year the City Council votes on a budget. This year they have been overwhelming amount of participation from community, especially people of color and allies. People left work early, shared rides, coordinated childcare, knocked on doors, and broke fears to participate in the budget process to have their voices heard in favor of community demands to address police violence and police/ICE collaboration. However, despite the overwhelming support and participation, the revised budget does not include the community demands. Join us to tell members and the city manager to the community. So from there, I'm gonna begin to read off a few names. Moises Miranda, Michelle Garcia, Alfredo Martinez, Maria Ortiz, Aaron Rojas, Shazad Stanikzi, Dulce Juarez, Anthony Luviano, Diana Rivera, Luz Gullien, Valerie Garnica, Fabian Sylvia, Ruby Rodriguez, Ana Vera, Jordan Elijah, Zulema Garcia, Fausto Hernandez, Edgar Roman, Gabriela de la Cruz.
All right, thank you very much. 2 minutes is up, and then I think there's other speakers as well. Is it Yasmin? Is that correct? Okay, perfect. And then after Yasmin, it'll be Maria Sanchez.
I'm just going to continue reading off names.
All right.
So, Maria Mendez, Luis Ortiz, Roxanne Tamayo, Gerardo Bustos, Monique Mayer, Hector Barrera, Eduardo Beso, Mike Cassidy, Graciela Lara, Aldo Gonzalez, Karen Mejia, Justin Hecht, Hoya Scott, Waylon Phillips, Juan Elcock, Ramon Aquino, Jose Lopez, Cindy Silva, Michael Soto, George C., Lupe Gorola, Paris Wallace, Stephen Blair, Rocio S., Isela Peña, Stephanie Rubio, Luis Azueta, Anaí Rodriguez, Ana Senea, Jason Ramirez, Danny Davila, Flor Haro, Lady Escobar, Daisy Ruiz, Carla Chavarria, Noe Aguilera, Gina Amaya, Trina Mitsui, Karen Gonzalez, Omar Gonzalez, Heather Kelly, David Carrillo, Ruben Guzman, Heather Keaton, Judith Brewer, Leonela Mayer, Jessica Zuniga, Crystal Diaz, Elizabeth Manjarres, Anthony Mendoza, Jenny Tucker, Erica Oveo, Mia Flores, Jessica Randon, Richard Cruz, Stephen Strauss, Scott Husher, Brittany Cias, Ignacio Castro, Giselle Sanchez, Alicia Brummett, Ashley Nunez, Anjali Moore, Sarai Munoz, Heather Hamel, Medea Sharnak, Alan Roy, Meredith Howell, Stephen Lopez, Sarah Warren, Elizabeth Venable, Blanca Collazo, Marvi Ruiz, Anaí Perez, Jasmine Ornelas, Eduardo Ramos, Israel Miranda, Jessica Arellano, Jessica Ayala, Adriana Gonzalez, Yasmin Sagastume, Veronica Vasquez, Joey Hazlip, Bianca Prudencio, Maxima Guerrero, Emilis Ortiz,
All
Taylor
right.
Young.
Thank you very much. Is Maria Sanchez, are you going to read names as well? Good to see you.
Hi. Ooh. My name is Maria. I live in District 5, so I specifically want to talk to you, Daniel Valenzuela. Your silence is being loud, so we are hearing that you don't want to support us on these demands that the community has been speaking about, especially you, Kay Gallego, you're running next for mayor. The community is listening. They're seeing if you're going to support us in these issues that we're facing daily. So when you guys run your campaign and you want to say you're pro-immigrant, you're pro-this, pro-safety, keep this in mind. So you don't get to say here that you won't speak and then later go out there to those voters and ask them, further vote because you're pro-this, pro-that. So today is your last opportunity to stand with this community that's been coming to these meetings. We've been part of the process and you're still ignoring us. So please remember that when you guys go out there to ask for that vote, because you don't get to be both. Laura, thank you, because you are addressing the community demands. So I personally want to thank you for that as well.
Thank you very much. Councilman Valenzuela, do you want to respond?
Thank you, Maria. It's good seeing you. It is. I appreciate you mentioning my name, which gives me a chance to respond. That's how this kind of thing works in the public comment. But there are a lot of questions still. You know, just in April 2017, I worked closely with my colleagues Laura Pastor and Kate Gallego, working with the police department at the mayor's discretion, the ad hoc around 4.48. Many people in the audience were there for that when we slammed the door on the president's 287G program. I think we have, there has been some movement in this direction. When we have a budget vote, and this isn't Congress, we can't just kick the can down the road and continue that vote moving forward and let debt continue to climb. By law, we have to pass a budget. I think this is a worthy discussion, especially when we have people in the community not feeling safe. Everyone should feel safe. But when we have to adopt a budget now, this program that's being talked about, what does it look like? What does it sound like? Does it work the same as it might? Is there a different fund? And I understand, I've heard people in the audience say that there are funds out there in the community, or I'm sorry, throughout the country. Are those in cities with the same charter? Is there a charter change? Is there a state law that has to be changed? There's a lot of work that has to go into that, rather than just simply saying, this is what we're going to do. How much money goes into a fund like that? So there are a lot of questions like that. And Maria, I am pro-immigrant. I believe in people, and I've shown that. And whether I'm elected or not, that's who I am. I'm a firefighter. I don't pick and choose who I serve everyone. But I do appreciate your passion. I do appreciate all that you're doing in the community. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman Valenzuela. Luke Black.
So this council has a process, and it was a process that was designed to identify budget items that are a priority for residents. And I think it's been made abundantly clear that you are not honoring the process that you put into place, which begs a lot of questions, especially after y'all just voted 7-2 that you were going to spend a lot of money to participate in a census process for the sake of including the input of Latino communities, communities of color. You talked ostensibly about valuing their opinions, but yet here we are having the exact same conversation about a process that you put in place where you don't value their opinions. I mean, if you're going to do that, I mean, you know, I support Councilperson Waring's assertion that it's a waste of money. So maybe we should spend that money elsewhere. You know, I think we have a lot of differing opinions on what it means to be of the people, to make people feel welcome, to be about safety. You know, Councilman Valenzuela, you brought up Order 4.48. Where are we on that? Because there's still video evidence of Phoenix PD driving folks to ICE, which you're not supposed to be doing that if y'all actually put that into place with Order 4.48, right? So y'all put these policies into play. You don't actually hold the police accountable. So there's no accountability in the budget. There's no accountability in the policy. So where do we stand with all of this, right? I mean, where do we as residents, where do we go with this process? Right? Where do we go from here with three of you seeking higher office, with you, Mayor Stanton, stepping down to run for Congress? Where do we go with this? Like with Councilpersons Gallego and Valenzuela, where do we go with what you say but don't do? Like how do we as community members, as residents, how do we approach you? How do we vote for you if you say one thing and don't do it? What do we do with you?
All right, excellent. Thank you for your testimony. How about Adriana Gonzalez?
Hi. So initially I came up here to like continue saying names, but I'm sure y'all get the point by now. I have like 4 more pages of names. So my like real question here is like, how is that not enough? Like how, like we aren't pushing anti-police rhetoric, we're pushing our lives, we're pushing our lived experiences, we're pushing our wants and needs, and like, we have been at the forefront of like these attacks because every day we walk out of our house, like we have to put on our invisible chains and have the targets on our backs because in reality we're just being criminalized, we're just being targeted, we're being separated. So our lived experiences are not BS. The things that will keep us safe are not BS. Just wanted to emphasize that. We're speaking up for ourselves, our community members, our future generations, because I personally would not want any of my little nephews, any of my like future children to like go through the same things that many like community members have to go through. And so I'd like to ask Nowakowski, because he's personally my representative. As Chair of Public Safety, I want to know why you have not like so far pushed for our community demands that really would keep our streets safe. So like, would you vote to keep our streets safe if it were a motion? Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much for your testimony. With the petition itself, I don't know, has it been submitted formally to the city? It's up to you whether you want to do it or not, but obviously we could accept it and make it part of the record if you would like to do so. The last speaker will be Mr. Mike Bielecki.
Your Honor, council members, I'm Mike Bielecki. I am the current chair for CAS, and I want to thank you for entertaining more dollars for the CAS program. CAS is fundamentally a hand up, not a handout. You go there, but you're going to get case management if we have enough case managers. And that process has shown that we can get people through CAS into better situations quicker and at a higher rate of effectiveness. So we appreciate it. I've been around this problem for a lot of years. I've been on the board for CAS for 31 years. I started off being a firefighter downtown when, during the Reagan recession, there was a proliferation of homeless that we had not seen in this community before. And it's never been easy, and the population's complex, and it's frustrating, and it's difficult. I want you to know that CAS raises the vast majority of its funds other than from Phoenix. These are critical dollars and sometimes more flexible than some of the other federal funds, for instance. But the Phoenix dollars make up about 14% of the CAS budget. But they are critically important dollars with the flexibility. So we appreciate it. We keep trying to do a better job with other fundraising. But this is a tough, difficult period for homelessness, and the population is in its own way changing. I could go on and on for this, but I won't do it right now. I just want to say thank you for entertaining the change. Mr. Zucker, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bilecki. That's all the cards we have on the proposed budget. So the motion has been made in favor of the budget as presented by the city manager and our budget research director here. There has been a second. Now I'll turn to members of council for comments. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to speak to the young people that were here speaking. First of all, thank you for participating in the budget hearings. It is important that all citizens in Phoenix have the opportunity, and I always enjoy when they do come. However, I want you to know I did hear you. I just don't happen to agree with you. To me, it's not the priority in this year's budget. I feel very strongly that we have an outstanding police force. We still need to hire more police officers. And quite frankly, when I heard over-policing, shackles went up on me, because that's not what I hear at all from constituents and neighborhoods. And I feel very strongly that our police chief has laid down the law to our officers, that they enforce the law. And I commend them for doing that. I understand what you're saying. I just don't think we need to have a fund to turn around and attack policemen for doing their job. So I just wanted you to say thank you for participating. I heard you. I just don't agree.
All right, thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Councilman Nowakowski.
Thank you, Mayor. I was one of those 3 individuals that signed the letter to increase the funds for CAS. But one of the concerns I have is that with Phoenix Cares, we have a check and balance. They give us a report of how many people they serve, how many people are in housing, and how many people they have through counseling and all that. With CAS, I was just wondering if there's a way to have a quarterly report on how many people that you all provide housing, that you serve, and case management, because I think we need to be good stewards with the tax dollars that we're allocating out there. So I'm not sure if Craig could come on up, or Michael Lecky could come up.
Data on all kinds of things, and we can package that for you to get something that's reasonable and accessible to you quarterly. Yes.
Thank you. And going to the being the chair of public safety, one of my concerns is that we have to have safe streets. That everybody that lives in the city of Phoenix should feel comfortable picking up that phone and calling our Phoenix Police Department, our firefighters, when you need help. And you should never hesitate. And if you do hesitate, we need to know about that. I know that the chief, or both chiefs, from our fire to our police chief, we want to find out if there are incidents out there. I need to know about it. I'm pretty sure both the chiefs need to know about it. And we need to figure out what's going wrong, or if there's a lack of communication from the training, or if there needs to be more training, but we need to figure it out. The other thing is coming up with funding. It's been put on our subcommittee to really look at the best practices in other cities. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to have it done before the budget, the final vote on the budget. So I'm asking the city manager and our director of budget and research if there is there a way to get some funding for whatever comes out of that research, if there's a need, let's say, for an individual to be an advocate for individuals that feel that they're abused by police or that they need to have an advocate as a victim or so? Is there a process or so that we come back and find some type of funding, or if there's some best practices out there that we can implement that later on? Because I don't want these young individuals that have come up here, that have been to all these meetings, to think that it was just a waste of time.
All right, Mr. Manager, if you want to respond to that and talk about maybe a risk management fund or other programs in place.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Nowakowski. So this budget does not have funding identified for the two funds that were requested. The council can study this, and if it's desired by the council to do something, then we could go back and work at the council's direction to identify potential funding for it. In terms of a victim fund, we currently have a risk management fund that if someone has a claim against the city, treatment or whatever, there's a way for them to seek redress for that, and we would cover that through our risk management fund.
Well, I can tell you all that the homeless situation in the downtown and in my district has been going on for years and years. And last year at the budget hearing, same situation. People came in saying that there's not enough funding. So it started off as a grassroots movement of individuals that were concerned and that wanted to do something. And Phoenix Cares came out of that program. One of the things we found out is that we have all these great resources and services that help out the homeless individuals, but that our staff weren't really communicating with each other, and that we needed an advocacy group out there that can actually provide some counseling. So that's where Phoenix Cares came out. I believe the same situation can happen here. If we sit down and we start having those types of conversations, and let's figure out what that core issue is. What is the problem? Because right now it's a little bit of everything, right? And I want to figure out, as a council member, what that core issue is. And once we figure out what that core issue, then we can start addressing what the results are. So hearing from the city manager that if my colleagues and all that agree to it after the findings are done, then maybe we can find some solutions in the near future. But what I can promise you as Chair of the Public Safety, that we will address this and we'll continue to address it and talk about it until we figure what the core issue is.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman.
I just have one
Councilwoman.
question regarding the Public Safety Committee. The mayor will be leaving May 29th. We will then, in 10 days, vote for an interim vice mayor. I anticipate that in September or end of August, when we get back, there'll be a change of all the committees and names of committees. So I don't know who to ask, because I don't know who, we don't have an interim mayor at this moment. But there are going to be changes of all the committees, and so we're unsure of where we're going to be sitting. I guess I'll ask the chair of the Public Safety Committee at this moment. We could probably put it on a June agenda, but I'm not sure then what happens after that. So those are the unknowns right now.
All right, thank you very much, Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to talk a little bit about the budget process. I know the hearings are really important, but it starts from hearing from the council, hearing from the different departments, what issues they're hearing out in the community. So for example, in District 3, we heard a lot about homelessness. We heard a lot about public safety. We heard a lot about street infrastructure, water leaks, streets. And so I think maybe, not to put you on the spot, Ed, but maybe you could talk a little bit about the budget process and how you start to form it. Because I think it's because you hear from the community. You hear from the departments, for example, Alan's department, Planning and Development, they're getting some new plan reviewers because permits are up, and you're hearing from your community that you need to have the plan reviewers. So a lot of what we do is hearing from residents and businesses within the city, and that helps create the budget. And then we start the hearing process. And so, I mean, I think Councilman Nowakowski is correct. A lot of it starts from a grassroots perspective, and that was true with the Phoenix Cares. So maybe if you could kind of briefly talk about it. Again, the hearing processes are important, but there's a lot more to it.
All right, Mr. Manager, if you can give the short version of how you come up with your initial budget proposal.
I think Councilwoman Stark actually did a pretty good job, is that we have existing services we provide. We hear from departments as to what is needed in their experience of serving the community. That's a dialogue between customers and the council, and a lot of it comes through the subcommittee process, the things week in, week out, month in, month out that the council's processing through the subcommittees in order to inform what we do, when and if we have some extra resources to put to it. But I think Councilman Stark gave a pretty good tutorial.
Other comments? Councilman Waring, please.
Thank you. So, lot to cover here on the budget, but certainly to the comments that we heard about the subject of the fund and so forth. Thelda Williams and I did a budget hearing together, and you guys are absolutely right. I think the majority of the people who showed up talked about that, and then the other half, roughly, were talking about other issues. So if you feel like you feel cheated because 500 people or whatever came to the budget hearings and 251 mentioned this, I would say you're probably not wrong. In the history of Phoenix, the 6 years or so I've been here, that's kind of been the case. But people do get to disagree, and one way you can disagree is not put your thing in the budget. So I disagree. Somebody mentioned the word solidarity. You're right, I'm not in solidarity with you on this particular issue. We may find other common ground. Last 7 presidential elections, the deviation from 50% for the winner has been almost nil, and several have won getting less than 50%. Clinton a couple times, Bush obviously once, Trump once. So it's gone both ways. It's not a particularly together country in this case. So if you're looking for solidarity, it's not surprising any 2 individuals can't agree, but it's pretty much 50-50. So remember, when you use the word solidarity, that half the country thinks you're wrong at the very least. So there's that. Remember, that's the last 7 elections. Really, you can go back to about 1948. Most of them have been close. Republicans have won a few blowouts. Democrats have won 1. So this isn't something new either. We've been divided for quite a long period of time. The question of ICE was brought up. I guess I'll ask the city manager. So we had quite a discussion about this maybe a year or so ago. City of Phoenix arrests, doing this from memory, I think in 2016, when President Obama was president, I think arrests made by the city of Phoenix led to about 1,500 ICE actions. I think it was about 2,000 in 2015 and about 2,500 in 2014. So it had gone down, but we had quite a discussion, or I certainly did, with the police chief at the time. Arrests by the city of Phoenix do lead to deportations, correct? And that has not changed. My understanding was everybody who was cuffed, their names get sent to ICE. Is that wrong? Has that changed?
I would have to ask Chief Williams for the specifics on it, but basically the policy, well, the law of the state of Arizona is what our police department follows.
The chief's here. Perfect.
The chief is here. So I'll ask
That's the way I recall it, but it's been a year or so.
I don't remember the statistics, but we're very careful that we follow the law of Arizona, whether people agree with that or not. But the council gave some very clear direction about the extent beyond that, and how we handle that. So, Chief.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilmember Waring. When we made the adjustments and changes to 4.48, we were very careful to make sure that we follow the law, especially when it comes to Senate Bill 1070. So there are times when we have to contact ICE. That is when criminal matters happen. We still do that, very much like contacting Drug Enforcement Bureau, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, and other federal partners.
So I guess to the members of the audience, so City of Phoenix still follows Senate Bill 1070, the part that remains that was upheld by the courts, still sends names to ICE, and ICE follows up undoubtedly in some cases with deportations.
So the Phoenix Police Department does follow the state laws, and yes, sir, we do that.
So So people who are asking us to do something different would be asking for us not to follow state law, which would have had a lot of repercussions we had a discussion about earlier. I guess the reference I'm looking for is there was a comment about mass deportations. I guess it depends on your definition of mass, but certainly if it's 1,000 people, that's probably a lot. But the city is obligated to follow state law. So you're right. If you don't like that, then you would belong to the 50% of the population that disagrees with me. I understand why that might make you unhappy with me. The census vote, the same thing. But that doesn't say that I'm in the minority or anything else. It's at worst 50-50. So there was an implication that everybody's standing together on this, and why are the 9 of you not siding with us? Well, there's a reason. Probably Phoenix wouldn't be participating in the deportations if a vast majority of Americans or Arizonans or Phoenicians were against it. So you're not necessarily in the majority. At best, it's 50-50. So just because one group thinks one way, and I'm talking about just the group that's here, the 20 or so people in front of us and the people who spoke, please remember that there is a bigger city, 1.6 million people, and I'm tying this into the budget comments because I've had this discussion with my colleagues. It is fantastic, to Thelda Williams' comment, that you come to the budget hearings. I think that's great, whether I agree with you or not. And the one I sat with Thelda Williams, nobody spoke about this issue at the one I did with Deborah Stark. I felt strongly enough to say, I completely vehemently disagree with you, and I'm saying that right now. But I'm glad that you came. That doesn't mean I feel obligated to vote your way. Apparently, at least for today's vote, my colleagues don't necessarily feel obligated to that either. But it does beg the discussion of, if 500 people come to the budget hearings, there's still 1.6, 1.7 million Phoenicians. A lot more of them participated in our elections or anything else, frankly, than came to the budget hearings. So the whole premise of a lot of your argument is we showed up, there were more of us than anything else. We want what we want. I don't know that that's necessarily what the budget process says. I don't know that it's written down that we have to make a vote based on that. And so that's something I've thought about for a while. This gave me an opportunity to talk about it. But I hope that made sense. But I don't necessarily feel like my colleagues, who may not be supporting this today, whatever they may do in the future with subcommittees and so forth, are necessarily violating some obligation. I certainly don't feel I am, if we don't support everything that came out of those budget hearings.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman Waring. Just a second, Councilwoman Gallego is going to speak next, and then Councilman DeCiccio, please.
Thank you. First off, thank you to Jeff Barton. We have a great, very talented individual running our budget process, and I want to thank you. It is because of hard work every month that we are in the place that we were in, with great partnership from our city manager and assistant city manager. We really did try to look how we can run this city as efficiently as possible and make common sense early investments and cuts so that we'd be in a place where we could do some new investments and move the city towards a city that reflects our values. This budget process has done a lot of things, I think, to make our community safer. When we began the process, often the first responder to meet someone who was experiencing homelessness was a police officer, and we made significant investments, some quite early, to bring in community bridges and others so that we lead with services, not with law enforcement. I think that's values that people here today would appreciate and I hope consider a step forward. We are constantly learning how to make a fair and just city and how to address our increasing homelessness in our community. But now we have great partnerships, and it's letting the police officers do policing and people who have expertise in human services be our leadership that makes us, to me, a safer city and is an investment that I hope most people can be proud of. We're also making significant investments in civilians as part of public safety, including research, making sure that we follow up on gun crimes. That will help us have a safer community. So we're doing a lot of investments in safety that aren't police officers, and we need to look at that comprehensively. I was proud to serve with Councilman Valenzuela and Pastor on the committee that the mayor appointed. My chief of staff, who is an experienced immigration lawyer, worked pretty much nonstop on that and trying to get good policies it's important to me that we follow them, and I'll be working to make sure we do absolutely the best that we can while following state law. We want to have a safe community, and that is a community value. One of the things I think we did during Mayor Stanton's time here that was very important was look at our process with civil service reform. When I was elected, we would often have situations where the police chief and a hearing officer would want to end the service of certain police officers at our city, and a group of civilians, the Civil Service Board, would disagree and prevent that. We did some significant changes into who's serving on that board and significant training investments, and we don't have that problem today. So we have tried to move forward in making sure that we have the best department possible and that we have accountability and structures. We can always do better, and I know that our chief is absolutely committed to that. But I think we should also recognize we are trying our best we can to build a fair city. So I just thank everyone who's participated, and know that the budget is not the final vote. We will continue to move forward on important issues, including on homelessness. The subcommittee I chair, which is one of the ones that has oversight over housing, made some significant recommendations with community development block grants that will be additional investments in safety for the Human Services campus. Hopefully that will benefit the surrounding neighborhoods in addition to the people who are clients of CAS. So there's more good news in that area that I hope is coming forward. This budget made some important investments in neighborhoods and neighborhood cleanups for neighborhoods that were impacted by homelessness, and that was something that we didn't foresee at the beginning. So thank you to our team for finding those resources. We have some significant challenges in this community, and I hope we can continue to work creatively to address them.
Thank you very much. I think Councilman DeCiccio and then Councilwoman Pastor. Councilman DeCiccio, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And to address those individuals who are there, you have every right to be here. I want to be very clear about that. And you have a right to have your position. But I also have a right to confront that position because I think it's dangerous, it's harmful to our police officers, and it's harmful to our city. And you'll know everything about me because I'm very direct. I don't pretend to be your ally here. I don't pretend. There's a reason why your issue never made it into the budget. It's because nobody asked for it to be in the budget. You have no allies here. I'm telling you that because that's a fact. And the fact of the matter is, what's happening with our police officers, these attacks on them, is just unwarranted. It's wrong. It's not respectful to these individuals. They go out there and risk their lives on a daily basis. So there's a reason why I did not make it in there. I am not your ally, but the ones that pretend to be your allies, you should be asking them because they're the ones on your team, supposedly. Two, when it comes to the homelessness issue, I think it's the worst I've ever seen it. Right now, my neighborhood, in particular throughout North Central, Arcadia, Ahwatukee Foothills, Biltmore area, we're seeing a lot more homeless than we've ever seen in the history of the city of Phoenix. The policies in the city of Phoenix are not working. Matter of fact, they've aggravated it and made it worse in the city of Phoenix. Three, I'm not going to be supporting this proposal because everyone's giving accolades on it. But what you're forgetting is that $2 billion of debt was added to the budget in order to come up with a balanced budget. They're using debt in order to pay off a small amount of money. I think that's wrong. It's fiscally irresponsible and does not show fiscal accountability. So I'm going to be voting no, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman. Councilwoman Pastor.
So I would like to correct you. I believe the last time we had a discussion about the budget, I asked the city manager to look at this and to look at funding. Secondly, I enjoy the spin that you have that it's anti-police. This is not about anti-police. This is about safety of our neighborhoods, safety about our constituents, safety about everything around with police and those that live in the city, the residents. So I strongly believe there's a way we can hear everyone that has been at our meetings, in particular if there's been 500, and I have several questions regarding the budget, how we hear what is happening within our community. At my district, I heard these, and I heard it loud and clear. Maybe other peoples didn't hear it in their other district, but I represent those areas that, those communities that feel unsafe. So I just had to say that. My question to Brad is, on the census item that we just voted on, what will be the cost for that?
So, Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, assuming we just join one of the existing lawsuits, there won't be a cost. That is, we will handle it in-house and just join with one of the other jurisdictions who will do the lead work on it.
So we voted to join, or what, out of the two items, because there were two items, I believe we voted to join, but
Yes,
I
ma'am.
need clarity. So in voting to join, we'll do in-house.
Yes, so Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, by joining one of the lawsuits, we can handle that matter in-house and let one of the other jurisdictions act as lead. So we would file joinder briefing and so forth. And because we can handle it all in-house, there isn't an additional charge or burden on either our risk management funds or our other funds that we use for litigation.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I have several questions, so I don't know if I keep going. Okay. The arts and culture, there's 189,000 placed in the budget regarding the Latino Cultural Center. I would like to ask the city mayor, out of all the budget hearings and all the narratives in there, was there advocacy for the Latino Cultural Center?
There may have been a couple comments, but I don't remember the number, but it was not broad across the city, no.
Okay. The street transportation Arizona highway user revenue. There is a proposal for cleanup right-of-way items in here. I lost my notes. Is this for the cleanup for Phoenix Cares?
Councilwoman Pastor, the cleanup for homelessness that is in for streets is not streets funded. That is using the solid waste fund as we discussed on May 8th.
Yes.
And yes, that's for homeless cleanup.
Okay, and in the dynamic of solid waste, what it says, and I want to be clear to the audience and to the constituents as to what it says. It says this is a one-year effort using existing fund balances. If we want to continue this, we will need to be incorporating it into the solid waste rate. So in 2018, 2019, when you come back for the budget, what I am hearing is that we are going to have to incorporate it into the rate, and I'm assuming we'll be voting for a rate increase.
I can answer that as chair of the
Vice
subcommittee.
Mayor.
Thank you. As we've talked about at subcommittee, going forward about the rates will come to us this fall. And if we want to continue to do the cleanup, not only just for the homeless, but we have many calls for alley problems, we would probably have to ask probably another quarter or something on the monthly bill. And it's coming to us this fall. We've had just the briefing on it now. So I don't know if that's what they're talking about in next year's budget. I mean, it could be, but I know we were talking about, we need to talk about it this fall.
That's correct, Vice Mayor. And as you remember on May 8th, when we talked about this item, we also talked about setting up service level metrics to be able to evaluate the program over the course of the next year. So when you got to that point in time, you'd have actual good data, solid data to make a decision from.
So my response to that is, so we will be talking about a rate increase. My other understanding is that we will be talking about a water increase coming up. I just got briefed on that, and a report on how far we can go with the rate increase. I'm not sure, Jeff Am I correct or am I wrong? Or
Mayor,
Ed?
Councilman Pastor, the schedule for reviewing our water rates and our water expenses is this fall.
Okay.
We're currently at the end of a 2-year cycle on our water rates, and so the fall is the time when the council addresses that.
Okay, thank you. Pedestrian safety, we're adding a position for pedestrian safety coordinator. Those funds are coming from where?
Those funds come from AHR, Arizona Highway User Revenue Fund.
So it's not coming from our general fund or non,
It is not coming from the general
and
fund.
how was that position created or decided?
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, in the last couple of months, the attention on pedestrian safety has been magnified with reports being issued that Arizona has the highest rate of pedestrian fatalities in the United States, and seeing what's happening here. And since our street transportation department is charged with pedestrian safety and the safety of people on our streets, it's my recommendation to the council that we need to have more resources put into how we look at education, evaluation, engineering, and enforcement to try and affect the pedestrian fatality rate in Phoenix.
Okay, and I'm going to read a statement here. Although other expressed community needs are not available to be addressed in this budget due to lack of available resources, the city will continue to examine how other requests from residents may be addressed in the future. I'm just reading what's on this report, and I believe there are residents sitting in here addressing a problem, and we're just saying there's not a problem. So my other one is census. We just voted on census. My question is, we're gonna pay for a position that I believe is $101,000 for a MA2. My understanding is 50,000, then we'll go to outreach, which I think should be flipped. More money should go to outreach than to a position. We currently just switched or moved somebody into the position to run census. I personally would think that, and I probably could make a motion, a second motion, is to move some of that money to risk management. Since we have a risk management for.
All right, is that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion then would be to, I guess it'd be in the form of a substitute motion to move the money currently recommended for a census position into risk management. Is there a second on that motion?
I need some clarification. What was that? I'm confused.
Okay, so I'm not sure I should I want to get the intent of the motion clear. The intent was to take the recommendation that we add a position for census and take those resources and instead move it into risk management. Is there a second on that motion? All right, the motion dies for lack of a second. Continue, please.
Well, hold on. I have a great deal of respect for Councilman Pastor. I want to understand the motion. Are we talking about?
Fair enough.
I want to. So it sounds like. First, we're talking two different items. First of all, the census is incredibly important, especially even if we had to pay $25,000 as a city. But if we can get by without paying that, we stand to lose $700 to $800 million in funding if that doesn't happen in our favor. So that's an issue all in itself that is already passed. I'm not sure if I understand the motion, but if the motion is to do what exactly? Because it sounds like there is no cost to challenge this.
As I understand the motion, it was to.
But I mean, so
Pleasure.
I just want to, but I want, Councilwoman Pastor is someone I have a lot of admiration for, so I want to be sure she's heard out. You know, I don't want this to just come and go without.
I'm trying to, in
having an
good faith,
opportunity.
she
I
made a
understand.
motion, and I'm trying in good faith, see if there is a second on the motion. That's Robert Rules of Order. So is,
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Council,
What is the purpose of the motion?
the motion, the purpose of, well, I'll let her explain if she wants to, the councilwoman, but the motion was to take the money that is currently recommended for a position on the census for preparing the city for Census 2020 and use those resources in risk management instead.
To do what at risk management?
I'm just adding additional dollars to risk management. Could somebody explain what risk management is?
Well, I know what that is.
What the
I'm just
purpose
asking
of-
why.
What the purpose is?
Or the purpose of the extra position. I'm just curious.
No, I'm not asking for an extra position. I'm asking to move funding from where census money was going to a position. I'm asking to move that money to risk management
Mayor-
and to keep the outreach portion available.
Can I ask, in addition to hers, how much money is in risk management on an annual basis?
Councilwoman, or Vice Mayor Williams, I'm not sure off the top of my head. It's a multi-million-dollar fund for our self-insurance risk management fund is huge. It's a lot of money.
It's in the
It's tens of millions of
tens of
dollars.
millions, if not,
Yes.
I want to say maybe in the 70 million range, but I'm going off of memory.
Yes. We are not successful in all of our litigation, so occasionally we have to pay.
I know it's
We need-
needed.
we need a lit-
I understand
We need a
that, but-
fund for that. Okay.
So Mayor, just
Councilman,
Well, Mayor, just as a point, just as a point of reference, though, I'm fully supportive of risk management. I understand what they do. There's a reason for that because they manage our risk. But and I'd be supportive of something like that, but I don't understand what the money is supposed to be used for.
I'm just asking it to go to the risk
Just to be
management.
moved
Okay,
in
so
there.
that's,
I'm asking for it to go to the risk management fund.
that's her explanation. Okay, now, so the motion is made.
Mayor, I might-
Councilman Noakowski, additional questions?
Just clarification, so we'll still have a census director and an office here in the city of Phoenix, right?
Well, we have to, I'll turn to the city manager to ask what the position that he's recommending
No, I'm asking.
for census, what is that
I'm asking with
position?
the motion, I think it
Oh.
was just a position, not the directorship,
So
right?
there is currently a position being held. When the census was being talked about earlier on, the census position was going to be for a MA2. Originally, it was supposed to be for an MA2. Then there were changes that happened, and we moved people around, and then a census position, a director, was then placed in there. Now they're requesting for a MA2. I believe that with the director and some of the money that it would be left for outreach, I believe that we have the skill and the ability of that person to be able to work on census and coordinate with the communities that need to be coordinated to help us with the census.
Mayor, if I might clarify. So my recommendation, the recommended budget is that our census effort actually is not adequate for the size of city we are. We have Mr. Santana, who is working as the Census 2020 director, but as we ramp up towards 2020, one person on our staff is not going to be able to do the adequate work that needs to be done for a city this size. And so that's why we recommend, the budget recommends a management assistant to be part of that effort. The $50,000 is for outreach, but that certainly is not part of the work of Mr. Santana and this assistant position is to generate community support and community resources for outreach. We need in-kind and private sector resources to do the kind of outreach that we need. So I stand by the recommendation of the budget, which is that we should add a position in the census and keep that outreach there. That's my professional recommendation.
So Mayor, I'll go ahead and second it as long as we're not losing that directorship position and we can look for funding somewhere else.
Okay, so there is a motion. There is a second to make that change in the budget.
Mayor,
Councilman, please.
where's the funding coming from? If first, we are not taking anything away from our effort on challenging the census. Is that correct?
Mayor, Councilman Valenzuela, my understanding of the motion is to take $100,000 of general funds that is recommended by the manager to be put to a position to support the census outreach efforts and to move that money to risk management. I would also say our risk management is fully funded, but I understand the motion. The census lawsuit challenge effort is a separate item that, based on the council's action earlier, our city attorney will use his in-house resources to do. So those
Correct.
two are not the same.
But it sounds like this is a position that is meant for the census. So it is to support the census. I wanna just say, again, because Laura is a personal friend as well, I understand the sentiment. And Laura, Councilwoman Pastor, is a fighter, and that's what I think we all love about her. I certainly do. The census is a separate item. We cannot risk losing that. In fact, the chips are already stacked against us. I'm talking about as a local community across the entire country, that we actually have to defend the Constitution and make sure everyone is counted in the census. We could lose between $700 and $800 million. That's not a small number. The stakes are far too high to risk our efforts and making sure that everyone in our community is counted. I understand the sentiment. The risk management fund sounds like it's according to the city manager, is fully funded in our community. And in fact, Mayor, you led, but I was right there with you when we adopted the anti-discrimination ordinance because people felt unsafe in our community. When people feel unsafe, it is worthy of a discussion, and we should have that discussion. Doesn't mean that you're anti-police to have a discussion. In fact, Chief Williams, as you sit here, I really appreciate that you're our police chief. You're an outstanding police chief, and the mayor was very kind in saying that one of the best things that he did as mayor was help lead the effort in hiring Ed Zerker. I really believe that Ed did well by hiring you as a police chief. So it's not an anti-police sentiment. I'm a first responder, and I got to tell you, we work closely. We have no choice, and we work closely. And I have a lot of personal friends who are both police officers and firefighters. And I'll also tell you that as a first responder, and there are a couple here in this room, on both sides, police and fire, it bothers every first responder when someone does something that they're not supposed to be doing. That's not why you take the oath. That's not why you're risking your life out there. If you have no public trust, then you have nothing. Certainly as a first responder and as an elected official. So that said, if there needs to be a discussion because people feel unsafe, then we should have that discussion. I don't think we should risk the census to put money in what is already a filled budget, which is the risk management. And I think before we figure out what is needed, I think that needs to be studied. So I can't support this motion, but I do understand the sentiment, and I'll stop there. Thanks.
Okay, so the motion.
Mayor?
Councilman DeCisa, did you want to speak on the substitute motion?
Yes, I'd like to. Now, there are two things. One, this is a single move. It's not a support of the entire budget. It's just a single move within the budget, correct?
No, it's a substitute motion. So if the council were to vote down the substitute motion, then thereafter we would have a vote on the underlying motion, which is the motion made by Vice Mayor Williams. So yes, it is a vote on the overall budget, which would include this proposed substitute, but if voted down, we'd still have an opportunity to vote on the underlying budget.
If it was separated, I would support her on it, and I can tell you why. It's a very fiscally responsible move on her part.
How would I separate?
sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm following your lead.
Oh, so if I could, Ed, who is the head of the census right now?
Ms. Zuercher?
Yeah, Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, the census is in the government relations group. Mr. Santana, who was up here earlier, is our director of the census effort.
Right, exactly. If you want your census, I mean, I'm going to just be very direct. If you want your census efforts to fail, he's the right guy.
Oh, come on.
Bottom line is,
Oh,
I know what.
No. I can't let that
No,
go.
Ed, I'm done. I've got the floor, Ed. You do not have the floor here, pal. Okay? So if you want this thing to fail, that's who you've got at the head of it. I would support this if it was a single motion and a heartbeat.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilman. I wanted Mr. Zuercher a chance to respond based upon the personal nature of the attack on Mr. Santana. Mr. Zuercher, you want to talk about that particular employee on behalf of City Council?
Sal,
I guess.
this isn't about who the director is or anything like that. At this moment, I have the motion. I don't think we should be attacking any of our city employees. I have my own opinions about things, but I keep it to myself, and I think that's what elected officials need to do. We can express ourselves privately to Ed, but I don't believe this is a public back and forth of the employees.
All right, so we have.
Well, I think we should be direct with the city manager who hires these individuals and puts them in one spot after another.
We can talk about that in the city manager's evaluation.
Okay. You got it. Thank you.
Mayor,
All right, Mr. Zuercher, I wanted you to have the opportunity. There was obviously a personal attack on Mr. Santana as it relates to his abilities. You are the person who asked that he serve in this position. I wanted the opportunity both for fairness as well as it's important because of the nature of this particular vote, because it would affect one individual that you've made that recommendation. Maybe you could talk about why you select this individual for the position that you have.
Well, I'm actually a little embarrassed here, Mayor, because I don't think it's fair for individual employees to be called out in this way. I just want to say, Mr.
It's totally fair, Ed, because he's failed at everything he's
Councilman, the city manager has the floor. We'll give you a chance to respond, but our city manager has the floor. I was giving him the opportunity to respond to the nature of the personal attack that you made on Mr. Santana. Mr. Zuercher.
Mr. Santana, I've known him for my 20-plus years of service with the city. I've known him by his work, which has been outstanding in everything he's been asked to do. And I don't want to get into anything more with an individual employee, but I have complete confidence in Mr. Santana, and I actually think that our census will be successful because of Albert's work. And I personally asked him to do it, and I will stand by that decision right now, and if I'm ever asked about it again.
Mayor,
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor, did you have a comment?
I want to make a comment, the fact that the council is prohibited from being involved in employee matters beyond two positions. We hire and supervise the city manager and the chief court justice. And I think this conversation is inappropriate and out of bounds.
All right, thank you very much. Obviously,
Mayor,
the city manager would have a chance to respond for both the council and the public because of the nature of the personal attack by Councilman DeCiccio. Councilman Valenzuela, please.
Thank you. We have nearly 15,000 city employees, correct?
Correct. Just shy of 15,000.
Nearly 15,000 public servants that are out there serving the 1.6 million people in this city, making sure we have clean water, we have improving roads, great infrastructure. They're running into burning buildings. They're responding to 911 calls with bulletproof vests on. They're running our city. Everyone who runs, certainly everyone who runs for re-election, runs on the backs of the city employees, even in District 6. And it's absolutely inappropriate. I will tell you, one of the big wins in District 5 was getting the Northwest Light Rail extension in 7 years early. And I thank the mayor publicly over and over, because you don't do that without the mayor leading. That's in my district. I work closely with the mayor. In fact, Felder Williams was the major champion. We got that done 7 years early, and it was a very, very tough, contentious in fact, people celebrated it when we made the announcement we were going to do it. Then we started ripping up the roads, right? And people were upset, which understandably. That was actually a very smooth process. All of those neighborhood leaders, those business leaders, that is now part of 19 North, rebranding 19th Avenue. If you ask them who the #1 champion was to get that done, they will say Albert Santana, and I will as well. It's uncalled for, it's inappropriate, and Albert did a great job. In fact, the census is such a big deal. I can see why you asked Albert to do that. I think it's wrong to call out any city employee. The job is tough enough as it is to be called out by your elected leadership, who, by the way, is going to continue to run for office based on your performance. It's ridiculous. It's uncalled for. And Albert, I want to thank you for your service to the city.
All right, thank you very much.
Mayor?
Councilwoman Gallego?
Yes, thank you. Mayor, I want to say that I think that Albert Santana has my complete confidence. He has done a great job. He has the ability to work on very technical issues with engineers, but also speak to people who are completely new to issues like light rail. In terms of our Hispanic Employees Association, he's taken that to national recognition, where people across the country are impressed with what we're doing. On census, I'm actually concerned we're not putting enough resources in. We have a very difficult city to count. We have complicated horse properties where it's hard to figure out how to access the property. We have an incredibly diverse city with many languages spoken. To ask 2 people and an intern to try to reach out to people who speak, 80 languages is a very incredibly difficult mission. If there's anyone who's going to be able to do it, it would be Albert Santana, but we need probably more resources. We can't trust the Trump administration to try to do the appropriate outreach. We're the ones who can hold them accountable if we make these investments, if we try to get more people involved. So I will not be supporting this motion because I actually think we need to be investing more in census.
All right, thank you very much. So we're going to take a vote right now on the substitute motion. If the motion passes, that's our city budget. If the motion fails, then we're going to take a vote on the underlying motion made by Vice Mayor Williams. I personally won't be commenting on any particular employee. We hire our city manager. As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, in my humble opinion, we voted unanimously to hire this outstanding person to be the city manager of the city, and he is the one that makes decisions as it relates to personnel, and he gets to put people in positions that he thinks has the best chance of success. And I think if you look at the record of our city manager in doing so, it's really good. And so I'm not going to talk about that in particular employee, other than to say that I trust our city manager to lead the city under our charter to make these important personnel decisions. And I want to say thank you for making good decisions in that regard, as evidenced by the people we have at this table right in front of us right now. All right, so Councilwoman Pastor, please.
I just want to say one last thing, is that the reason why I made the motion is because I know who is sitting there is competent to be able to do the things that are needed. And I looked at this in a way that to add more to the outreach piece and add funds to the risk management. So I just want to put that on the record.
Okay, now is the time for a vote. So that it's on the substitute motion. Roll call.
Councilman DeCiccio.
If this was a single item, I would support it, but because it includes the budget that I believe to have increased debt on our police officers and firefighters, yeah, there's just no way I'm going to support it with that, the complete package the way it is, Mayor. So the answer is no.
Councilwoman Gallego.
No.
Councilman Nowakowski. Councilwoman Pastor.
Yes.
Councilwoman Stark.
No.
Councilman Valenzuela.
No.
Councilman Waring. Vice Mayor Williams.
No.
Mayor Stanton.
No, so the motion fails by a 7-2 vote before the city council. Now the motion that's on the table is the underlying motion made by our vice mayor, Councilman Waring.
Thank you. So on a related but different subject. So we had the vote earlier about the census. At the time, it was stated it was going to cost us money to participate. I mean, I think that was reiterated. Nobody seemed to know how much. And we have, if we're making a policy decision and we're going to investigate a policy decision, we have to vote if we think we're going to spend 8 hours or more of an employee's time. Correct? Because we've had those votes before.
Yes, Mayor, Councilman Waring, there is an 8-hour rule on the council as you described it.
So we haven't had that with the census. However, we did vote to go ahead under the theory that we're using in-house lawyers, correct?
I would say that the vote by the council is a policy direction that would be the equivalent of an 8-hour rule. The council voted for us
Agreed.
to do it, and so that's direction.
Yeah, I'm not
to
debating
staff
that
to do
point, but that
yes.
serves as if we were
Yes.
just investigating and weren't doing anything. Yeah, I'm not quibbling about that. I'm sorry. That wasn't the genesis of my question. But my point is the reason we have the 8-hour rule is because it does cost us money, whether we're hiring other attorneys to file lawsuits, we have fees we have to pay in court or whatever. It does cost us money. The conversation, I think, was on this previous item in the substitute. There were comments that indicated that us now participating in this lawsuit is free. That was kind of the implication, maybe mistakenly, I don't know, but either from council members or that it was kind of, because it's in-house, it doesn't cost us anything. And I guess I'm just asking you, that's not true, right?
Right, it would be, I think the city attorney said meant there's no out-of-pocket costs.
Understand.
It is, the costs we're already paying someone to be an employee, that employee would be directed to do
But
this.
it's gonna take some hours of our attorneys.
And that's the logic of the
so-
8-hour rule, is that time is an expense that the council should control.
They could be spending money on other time, lawsuits we lose or win or what have you. So I just want to make sure that was clear because that was a little confusing. To the people in the audience, you might want to know who have spoken about the sort of interrelated issues. You might want to note item 2, which was the census issue, was an add-on. So it was basically added yesterday. It came up whenever President Trump did what he did, which maybe a couple months ago. I think that maybe it was in March. So clearly stuff can get added to the budget pretty quickly with a vote. You don't need Sal and myself to vote for your thing to get it. So the point is taken that there was a motion to divert money, I guess, to the cause that you like, and it didn't happen. Doesn't mean it won't happen in the future. But at the same time, money was spent on the item that really only has symbolic value. Now, potentially it's 8 hours, maybe it's less of a city attorney's time, maybe a little bit more, but it is money that could have been put into a pool you want or something. I may disagree with it, but I think you'd see that as something tangible. So remember, the symbolic vote got on the agenda, some money was expended on it like that. Your thing has languished and may languish forever. Who knows? Because as been stated, 3 members are going to be gone, fairly short order. Nobody knows who's going to be running what subcommittees and so forth. So be mad at me all you want. I'm used to being the bad guy. One more time isn't going to hurt my feelings. But you might want to evaluate how effective you're being as advocates with the rest of the members. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councilman Nowakowski, please.
Mayor, I just want to make sure that people leave knowing that not to be afraid to call our police for help, that the key point of the change of the policy was that a police officer has to call their supervisors before calling ICE. So there was some safeguards that were placed in there to make sure before calling ICE that we went through the proper channels. I don't know if that's true or not, Chief.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilmember Nowakowski, yes, that is true. So prior to every contact, we do have to notify the desk sergeant or supervisor to make sure we properly track and permit the law to be followed.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other final comments? I'll just add before we take a vote that, Mr. City Manager and the City Council, our budget process at the City of Phoenix is not perfect. But I don't know of any other public body with a better public budgeting process than ours. Try dealing with our friends of the state legislature, where you might get the budget maybe just a few minutes before it goes before the final vote. Sometimes people are asked to vote not even having a chance at all to review the budget that they're being asked to vote upon. In our case, while we're open-minded to any improvements that we can make in our public budgeting process, the fact that we present that budget in a public way, take it out to the public, and seek as many opportunities for comments, not just at those budget hearings, but through emails, personal contacts, social media contacts, whatever it may be. There's a reason why I think that our city council in this city does budgeting in a very strong way. There's a reason why we have the highest credit rating of any large city in the United States of America. And as we heard earlier today from the review recently from the credit rating agencies, why it appears they're viewing our city as very strong in terms of fiscal management. There's a reason why we put more money into risk management, actually not risk management, into the contingency fund, so that way it will even make us stronger from a fiscal perspective, particularly as it relates to our very important credit rating. And I do believe that the recommendations made in this year's budget to continue with our public safety plan in terms of hiring more police officers and firefighters, and hopefully we can find the people to take those very important positions, to putting additional resources into helping people end homelessness in our community, to put more resources into parks and recreation, particularly our park ranger programs, and to do more as it relates to moving forward with our heat readiness plan, because extreme heat is a real issue in our community. This budget is not perfect, but it moves us in the right direction as it relates to that and so many other priorities. So I think we ought to be open-minded to ways we can improve that budget process, but we also ought to be very proud about the end result of strong fiscal management, listening to the community, and making the appropriate recommendations as a result of that. So I certainly plan on supporting the Vice Mayor's motion as it relates to this budget. Any additional final comments? With that, roll call.
Councilman DeCiccio.
Nope.
Councilwoman Gallego.
Yes.
Councilman Nowakowski.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pastor.
I'm going to explain my vote. I hear your concerns and agree with them, and I'm with you. But it doesn't seem like that's the consensus among my colleagues. And so I won't be supporting this proposed budget as a result. At the very least, we should look into it on how what you're requesting is feasible. And I'm not hearing it from the majority either of wanting to do this. I support everything else in the budget. I support everything in the budget, but I just can't agree with a mission of a community that needs to be heard. So my vote is a no.
Councilwoman Stark.
Yes.
Councilman Valenzuela.
Yes.
Councilman Waring. Vice Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yeah, so by a vote of 6-3, the City of Phoenix 2018-19 budget is passed. There being no further business before this City Council, meeting is adjourned. Will I break this if I do a mic drop? Probably would. I'm not going to do it. All right, everybody, have a good evening.